very impressive results when you compare it to a year ago. All kinds of digit increases, and I think it just again plays up how bizarre this cycle is, and where people can spend, they are spending because incomes have been very well supported. But the reality is there are whole areas of the economy where they can't spend, and some of the areas have widened out because of the restrictions.
So Justin Trudeau spoke to the Queen already, but we don't know about Biden. B117 is a higher mortality than COVID-19. Oh yeah. Sun Life Financial is giving off February 12th as a day to be healthy and well. The Lozenge factory, I probably missed all that.
Although in large part there is pressure today because there is strength in the U.S. dollar. The TSX is lower for a second day. It's down 67, 17,848. Gold is lower by $11, 18.58. Oil is down 72 cents, 52.41. Now on Wall Street, the S&P and the NASDAQ pulling back from records at the close. The NASDAQ right now is down 15, the S&P up by 5, and the down 88. Now shares in IBM, a big weight on Wall Street. This stock at one point today was looking at its biggest drop in 10 months.
They tell us he does this every day, and we hear it like 3
times a week. The company reported a sales decline of 6.5% in the fourth quarter. That was much bigger than expected, and this was also the 10th straight quarter the company saw no year-over-year increase in revenue. I'm Chris McCusker. This is 680 News.
Does your credit card debt keep you up at night? I know mine did. Hi, I'm Adam, and 6 years ago, I was no different, so I started tomorrow.
10 quarters, my bad, not 10 years. It's 2.5 years without making any money, yeah? So B117, Boris Johnson says is more fatal than regular COVID-19, which is worse than SARS-CoV-2, which is worse than it was in the Civic hits. Right? Sun Life Financial's giving off the Chinese New Year. And they didn't even catch it yet. Good. Oh no, knowing what day it is would be communist. Okay. Well, Sun Life Financial just gave off February 12th as a day off for health and wellness and whatever. Justin Trudeau's already talked to the Queen. He's saying that the Governor General will be replaced in due course. I want to know who the fuck lives where in Ottawa anymore. He lives in the back house that the Governor General used to live in, or what the fuck is it? Do they get to keep the house? What were the other two things?
Regional weather conditions for
it's a bunch of bullshit today. It is interesting.
Unhealthy choices this year. Just ask your Walmart pharmacist. This message is brought
They're saying mandatory testing. It's not mandatory. They can give you the 2 weeks off paid. They can't force you to get a test. No, they can't. No, they can't. No, they can't. Medical surveillance. Oh, I got my green book here. Medical surveillance. You're not required to participate. They're referring to the people as being asymptomatic or not believing that they had symptoms.
Is 680 News, Toronto.
Here are Steve Roberts and Sarah Barrett.
It's Canada Post. They don't have to do anything the province says. Nothing. They don't have to do anything the province says. At that facility, they're required to have a separately ventilated smoking room, in spite of the provincial rules banning them.
The Prime Minister has briefed the Queen and is considering changes to the vetting process for high-level appointments.
Speaking of appointments.
Because of COVID-19 infections at the massive Canada Post Gateway plant in Mississauga, border service workers have been pulled out, and processing all that incoming international mail grinds to a halt. Traffic volumes are the lowest they've been in months. New data released from the city shows there are fewer vehicles on the road during the second lockdown, but still more than there were during the first lockdown last spring.
So the Lozenge factory has had 2 bad quarters in a row because there's no cough and cold season this year.
We've got losses on Bayonne Street.
You didn't say which one. Is it Fisherman's Friend or not?
And we speak to an
Is it a Fisherman's Friend or what is it? Paul's? With the Vixen?
Business at 26. 680 News Time 101.
All right, now time for traffic and weather.
No, get to the good shit, please. No one's going to believe that was all of the last 20 minutes of the hour.
To you by Hakeem Optical. We have 2 separate collisions on the westbound 401. They're very close to each other as well. This problem westbound 401 west of Yonge and
that might be one big crash.
Emergency crews on the scene of that crash. And then beyond that, just before Avenue Road in the Collectors, that second collision blocking the left shoulder. That's the first one that happened. So likely the secondary incident happened in that backup, which is why you always have to be paying attention when you're behind the wheel. That said, westbound.
I thought only had to pay attention, you know, according to the conditions when they were bad.
In the Collectors, use the express lanes through this stretch. They're moving much better. Northbound on the 427, a slow go from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. A smooth drive though on the rest of the 400.
So if you don't know, the Army in Canada answers to the Governor General. The Governor General is the Queen's representative in Canada.
Slow from Weston towards the 400,
that person is nominated by whoever the Prime Minister is.
The winter sale is on now.
I'm not sure if it's ever been different, but as far as I know, it's always been that the Queen just accepts whoever the Prime Minister nominates. It doesn't have to be that way. You can say, no, we're sending somebody new over.
And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor. Snow squalls to the north and northwest.
Sergeant Preston for Governor General.
Even in parts of the GTA, we've already reached our guaranteed high +2. Falling temperatures. It's going to get a lot colder. Sit at about -4 this afternoon. -10 for the low. Feeling -18 overnight. For today, already reached our guaranteed high +2. Right now, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, but don't let that fool you. It is a cold one when you factor in the wind. It is +1 downtown, feeling like -7. It is -1, but feeling like -9 at Pearson. 680 News Time, 103.
The Prime Minister has spoken for the first time since the unprecedented resignation of our Governor General Julie Payette, who stepped down following a series of allegations of workplace harassment.
680's
We have a presiding First Minister. There we go.
Joins us with more.
In the wake of this major resignation, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he has briefed the Queen to inform her of the situation and that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will be filling in. Trudeau says he did speak with Julie Payette in person Wednesday and she offered her resignation, which he accepted. But as questions are raised about the Prime Minister's judgment and whether he should have shared the blame since she faced similar allegations in previous jobs, Trudeau says she went through a rigorous vetting process and his government will be looking at ways to strengthen that process.
Everybody and anybody's telling him, oh, she's good, she's good, she's good. He's supposed to vet
her. He says he thanks them for doing their job in a difficult situation.
And reassure them that we will continue to stand up for workplaces that are safe and secure.
The Prime Minister also opened to making changes around annuities for Governors General, which is basically a hefty pension, which Payette will be entitled to after leaving the job.
Those processes will be
followed. Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Obviously, we're always open to having discussions on changes that need to be made moving forward.
Trudeau did not say when he would recommend a replacement for Payette. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill. Well, not only does it spread more quickly, but British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told his nation that the new variant of COVID-19 is also deadlier than the original version of the virus. Hospitalizations, for example, in the UK are more than 78% higher than the first wave. But Johnson is offering up some hope.
All current evidence continues to show that both the vaccines we're currently using remain effective, both against the old variant and this new variant.
Which new variant?
We also want to know that our immunization program continues at an unprecedented rate.
And at this point, the COVID death toll in the UK has now reached just under
I said it was B117. No, I don't know what he's talking about. They got two
downward
variants.
Trend of new COVID-19 cases in Ontario continues.
UK variant is B117, correct? Not correct. I think Brazil is T1 and South Africa is 501Y.B2. So that's right in front of my book. Lawyer,
2,662 new infections and over 71,000 completed tests in Ontario today, continuing what is now a 12-day downward trend.
Funny, I know you're somewhere in the middle.
Test positivity now 3.3%, the lowest it's been in over a month. The active caseload dropping by over 700 cases today. However, still 87 reported deaths. That's the third highest total the province has ever seen. In this COVID pandemic. And the vaccine rollout still a major concern as well. The Prime Minister admitting a phone call with Pfizer last night won't change the short-term situation.
The next few weeks will be challenging when it comes to deliveries.
No deliveries from Pfizer expected
next week.
That's the sample. The next few weeks, the week after that, and then it will ramp up for the week of February 15th. All 4 million doses still expected before March 31st, along with 500,000 from Moderna. And the federal government also sending 2 mobile health units to the Greater Toronto area. The GTA here, where COVID-19 is, of course, leading to some strained local hospitals. The hospitalizations are on the downswing. It will essentially provide 200 beds here in the GTA to help.
They're still trying to upspin this as good. The whole world's on fire, bro.
Live, I'm Alex Bloomfield. You're listening to 680 News. It's now 107. Well, the Canada Border Services Agency is now holding its workers out of a Canada Post plant in Mississauga after over 100 postal workers tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the issues actually could cause a number of delays, especially for international mail. Now, 680's Mark Douglas is outside the plant in Mississauga. Joining us live with the latest. Good afternoon, Mark. Good afternoon, Steve. Yes, if you're expecting mail or a package from
700 people hospitalized this year for influenza A was 17.
Last evening, about
10 plus 7.
Border Services Agency staff were pulled out of their work here at the massive gateway processing plant for Canada Post here in Mississauga. Inspections of every piece of incoming international mail is on hold until those workers come back. National President of the Customs and Immigration Union, Jean-Pierre Fortin, could not tell me exactly how much mail we're talking about here, but
it's bundles of mail. It's like a huge cage.
Bro, I see the transport trucks rolling now.
Doesn't matter containers and containers. The impact will be immediate on the time delivery of those packages of mail.
At issue is a dispute with Canada Post about how many workers here at Gateway have really become infected with COVID. Fortin says there's a disagreement if it's 20 workers or 6 times more, 120. Fortin says he has no idea how long it's going to take to resolve this dispute, but he says these inspectors cannot simply be replaced by other workers. It's like screening people at airports. Only they can do this job of inspecting incoming international mail. We have reached out to Canada Post for a comment. No response so far. Reporting live outside the Gateway plant, I'm Mark Douglas.
Well, have you noticed the roads are lighter on your travelers? There is some new data to back that up. 680's Moen Qureshi joins us live with a look at that moment.
I mean, anecdotally, you can see if you've been out on the roads over the last month or so that there appears to be fewer cars out there. Eric Holmes with the city tells me that
died in single vehicle collisions last year.
52% are normal in the morning and 73% are normal in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's what Holmes says in terms of the fact that there are only about 63% of the usual traffic out there on a daily basis today, according to one of the metrics that the city uses. That's the lowest we've seen since the first lockdown. He says in afternoons in particular, you're seeing a reduction.
The numbers have dropped and the congestion has dropped in the afternoon. It hasn't dropped as much as the morning. There have been times where it's been more intense during the reopening stages. What we're seeing now, though, is that we're seeing that congestion in the afternoon even drop further, so that we're getting closer to free flow numbers because people
Don't mention that the president's phone call with Canada.
Reporting live, I'm Moen Qureshi.
And on the way in just 30 seconds, we'll have a check on the price of gas.
680 News Time 109.
It's Frischko's birthday, and we're celebrating with big birthday bargains. Now until Sunday, 5-liter Sunlight laundry detergent is just $7.88. That's over 100 wash loads. Our birthday, your bargains. Frischko, lowering food prices. Limited to customer while supplies last. See flyer at Frischko.com for details.
This is 680 News, and the 680 News now gas price update. Enpro says the price of gas is set to go up tonight, just a penny though, to $1.12.9 a liter.
680 News Time 110.
It's just common sense. A flexi line by Capital Direct allows you to manage your funds more effectively and gives you that financial peace of mind. Think of it as secured lending, so you can do all the things you've been dreaming about, whether it's a basement renovation or taking care of tuition. It's the smart move that allows you to take only what you need when you want it. Whether you could use $50,000 or $1.5 million, that cash is available to you. Call Capital Direct today at 1-800-NEW-CAPITAL. CA.
$1.5 million.
Place. Nearly the entire population of Kitchener would be diagnosed every year.
$1.5 million, eh?
Right now, 1 Canadian hears it's cancer every 3 minutes. The researchers funded by the Canadian Cancer Society now know cancer isn't one, but more than 100 different diseases. That's why we fund the geniuses and dreamers researching all cancers. Donate at cancer.ca because empathy is bigger than apathy. Science is bigger than any tumor, and life is bigger than cancer.
Iraq, we had a really shocking story from the 2011 protests, which resulted in her actually changing the law in Egypt. Tell us about it.
That's right, Irina. Samira was one of the protesters of Tahrir Square in March 2011, and that was actually after Mubarak was toppled. She was rounded up along with other protesters as the military police dispersed a sit-in in the square. At the detention, she was subject to a virginity test in jail, and she was the first woman of those arrested to actually speak up against virginity tests. She sued the military council, which was in power back then, and actually managed to win a case to change the law. So it's now officially illegal to perform virginity tests in jail.
Officially illegal, so she did manage to change the law, but we actually have a clip of Samira speaking about her experience to you. Let's have a listen.
You just can't imagine the humiliation, the injustice of it, the way they try to make you regret that you have stood up and said no to tyranny, no to corruption, the way they try to make you regret taking part in the revolution and even hate the revolution.
When you spoke to Samira recently, what did she have to say
Like minus
about
18
what changed
overnight.
for her in
The
the last
sunshine
few
for
years?
the weekend, namely Saturday.
She was a bit disappointed at the overall outcome of the revolution. She told me that she doesn't believe now that 2011 has been successful because people are still aspiring for the same demands of freedom and social justice. But she told me that also like that she feels less courageous than she did back then in 2011. However, she feels very emotional and proud of her lawsuit, and she thinks that probably the main victory of her lawsuit that women are now more courageous and more vocal in Egypt and general.
And she changed history. Reem, let me bring you in here. This revolution was said to have been one of the first kind of Facebook revolutions, led by the young. And you spoke to people who were at Tahrir Square at the time, including a man who got badly injured during the protests. Tell us about him.
Yes, he's called Badr al-Bannari, and he's one of these protests who got shot in the eyes, and who came to be completely blind for a few years, and then regained partial sight after a couple of procedures. He's now in the U.S.
Time to come home. So that's a similar message here, but maybe, you know, even a more serious one here, considering the fact that you're right.
No more plays. Okay, one more play. Okay, one more play.
Straight into Bronx.
Absolutely. So the message is more, it's identical, but except he didn't tell you in November of the previous year, don't travel or go away because I'm going to not bring you back. There was no reason to talk that way. Now he has told you not to travel, so if you do, and then he imposes that sort of get back here in 10 days or something like that, you're going to be stranded.
Prime Minister already one of these headlines here. Cancel your trip. You're leaving the country this year.
All right,
Cancel your
and even
trip.
if you were to travel or we're thinking about traveling, we also wanted to mention here this afternoon, Marty, there's new rules in place if you're thinking about, I mean, obviously when we think about spring break, you know, our minds wander to Florida, the southern U.S. in particular when it comes to spring breaks of the past.
Well,
but if you were even thinking about heading there, maybe not so much after the Prime Minister's words here today, but there are new rules in place in the U.S.
That's correct. So just think about the moment you decide to make a trip now. You have to first go get a negative COVID test to be eligible to get into the U.S. Then you get to the U.S. and supposedly you're going to sit upwards of 14 days in the U.S. now in a quarantine period. That's kind of bizarre. That's your vacation is maybe those 2 weeks. And then go get another negative COVID test to come back into Canada. So
well, you should have that 14 weeks.
Extremely difficult with all these layers that they're putting in, and that should probably be enough to deter travel.
They didn't lock down the
state
borders.
It may not for some. That's the problem.
You got to tighten that up.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you are to quarantine when you come back to Canada for upwards of 14 days as well. So if you did decide to travel, you're talking about a month of going nowhere, 28 days.
You are. I totally forgot about that. And worse than that, you're also spending money on 2 COVID tests, okay? So they could be upwards of 180 a test. All of a sudden, it becomes expensive. It becomes you can be away from work for like, well, although you're still working from your house. But at the end of the day, this 2-week trip is turning into a 5-week trip at best, and it's going to be just a mess.
Yeah, is this a signal from leaders? I mean, obviously it's the incoming Biden administration that's putting these new rules in place, but is this a signal from the U.S. government party and elsewhere in the world that international travel is really problematic, has become problematic when it comes to the spread of COVID?
Yes, 100%. The only way they're going to beat COVID, I believe, at the end of the day, is to totally shut down the borders and stop travel altogether. That's the only way we can sort of keep ourselves protected. I think they're all very good, but there's varying strain also. This is a very scary thing what's going on with that.
Without a doubt. Marty, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Have a happy and safe weekend.
My pleasure. You too. Take care.
That's our travel expert, Marty Firestone, on the latest from the Prime Minister, as you just heard about 90 minutes ago, telling Canadians not to travel. And if you're thinking about spring break and you've made spring break travel plans,
I read that like 4 days ago.
you're to cancel them, in the words of the Prime Minister. All right, we'll get a break, and we're back here on a Friday on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Depression. Je me souviens d'une chanson. Parole de Boris Vian, chantée par Reggiani.
On en entend un extrait, là.
Avant d'avoir connu les chiens noirs du Mexique qui dorment sans rêver, les singes accunus, dévoreurs de tropiques, les araignées d'argent, on y truffé de bulles.
C'est drôle d'entendre Reggiani qui chante les paroles de Vian, parce que Vian, c'est un trompettiste, en souvenons-nous, quand il chantait, c'était très très rythmique. Alors là, Reggiani...
Vous savez, quand j'écoutais cette chanson, je ne connaissais pas le contexte de la chanson.
Oui.
Boris Vian se savait mourant, il savait qu'il allait mourir jeune, et c'est une chanson qu'il a écrite, je pense, peu de temps avant sa mort.
And one with one of the best from America, Dan Peake wrote Lonely People, topping the charts in
To cancel the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline was a difficult one for workers in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Now the two are scheduled to talk on the phone later on this afternoon.
Oh,
it's
not this morning.
It's going to be perfect alignment with the United States.
I'll tell you what's happening. It's Trudeau.
In a situation
believe what you want. He's the president of this. So what? It's nothing to do with Canada. As long as you think that it's something more important than what's happening in Canada, you will never be in charge in this country.
Working with President Biden.
And Trudeau says this is
He's
just
a drama teacher. He's used to talking to little kids.
States. Well, a growing number of Canadian tech companies are allowing
Well, it sounds like that when he's talking to the
COVID
media.
vaccine on company time.
At least 35 tech companies, including Skip the Dishes and FreshBooks, have signed a new pledge from the Council of Canadian Innovators. The companies have vowed to let their staff slip out to get the shot because they say vaccinations are more important than business as usual. They're also working to tackle misinformation by providing reliable info from public health agencies about vaccine safety and efficacy. Now, Canada has so far administered just over 738,000 doses of the vaccine to healthcare workers and residents in long-term care homes. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
Well, Toronto police say they are now investigating the city's third homicide of the year. Emergency crews come out to the Murray-Ross Parkway and Sentinel Road area near York University around 9:45 last night. They say one woman was found inside an apartment and pronounced dead at the scene. At this point, still no word on
It's University Heights.
And
you say York University, we think rapists. You're supposed to say University Heights, not Jamie Finch.
Advisory still in effect for parts of northern York and Durham region, including Newmarket, even up towards
They're ambiguous in it. Northern York and Durham region. Well, the city of York is like
possibly even more by
a 20-minute walk that way.
Drivers are being warned to watch out for blowing snow and reduce visibility.
It has no connection to York region. Well, there is a Northern York.
Seconds to look at the roads.
The York region is the York region.
News time 1:20.
Make your next career move with Too Many to Try. The company is hiring motivated and enthusiastic team members.
416-872-6800. Star 67 that shit if you're smart.
Thank you for calling the 680 News. Listener, please leave your comment that may be used on air now.
As far as employees of companies go, the companies are required to give you paid time for medical surveillance, treatments, vaccines, that sort of thing. They could argue at the details in employment court, right? But it's already a law that they have to give you the paid time to go get the vaccine. It's already a law, so I don't know why the fuck you're making a big deal of it. By the way, happy Chinese New Year to Sun Life Financial.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to call them a name.
680 News Time, 121. Time now for traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Gary Prunskis.
This report is brought to you
The only way it could be better is if it was 1-800 number now it's at a payphone.
401 west of Young in the collectors. The left lane remains closed, and this is due
I'll be
to
the
a
old
collision.
homeless guy that lives in the payphone with my AM radio.
On the left shoulder, another collision. Traffic is
Hand
jammed
crate,
from approaching
that's radio.
Bayview to west of Young in the collectors. The express lanes are very lightly traveled through this area. So take that transfer westbound 401 as you're approaching Bayview to get
So
into
we don't
the
need
express
transfers,
lane,
we're driving.
and then you'll avoid this delay.
We don't even have
Eastbound on the
transfers no more.
401, just a minor delay on that
Actually,
route from Islington towards the 400. That's mainly in the express lanes, and a slow go northbound on the 427 from the 407
I want to know what's
onto
happening to the
Highway 7 ramp.
TTC's coin counting machines or however they handle their coins.
Right now on
There's
the
companies that
404 and on
count
the
coins.
400. Looks like anywhere
Big
north of
machines
Highway
do it.
7 is where you get into those
And they're
trickier
armored
weather
cars.
conditions. So just keep that in
This
mind
has
if
got
you're
armored
traveling in
cars.
those
They
areas.
don't want you to know
A
that.
smooth drive though on the Gardner, making your way into and out of the city. The safety of drivers both
Think
on
about
and
it.
off the
The
road
Brinks,
means everything from
Secura
407
Corps,
ETR.
Garda World.
That's why
They got a
they've
big
developed
sign on the side of the
assistance
truck,
program
right?
for those
Because
who
it's a
need it most.
corporate-owned
And now with the
vehicle.
extended forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
You know what it
Gusty and
is. You
strong
don't
wind out of the
notice the
west-northwest,
TTC's
snow
on the
squalls
cars.
to the north, and that means that even parts of the GTA, northern GTA
They got
especially,
garbage
could have
trains
some
that run through
flurries
the
at
subway.
times heavy. Already reached our guaranteed high.
A regular
Falling
subway car full
temperatures,
of garbage
colder
with
air
the doors
for us
open.
today. We'll sit at about -4 this afternoon, but it'll feel colder with that wind. -10 for the low. Will feel like -18 overnight. For the weekend, sunshine Saturday after some morning flurries, the high just -5. Sunday, cloudy and -4. For today, already reached our guaranteed high, +2.
Right now in downtown, we've got the sunny breaks that Jill was talking about. -1 right now in the core, feeling like -9 though when you factor in the wind. It looks like right now we got those exact same conditions out of Pearson. 680 News Time, 123.
Does inline fiberglass do window replacements? Of course we do. Hi, I'm Tom Rokiki of Inline Fiberglass. A lot of people ask me whether or not Inline does window replacements. We have been replacing vinyl, wood, and aluminum windows for over 30 years. No job is too big or too small. So let us beautify your home and improve your home energy
Women now,
efficiency.
and I can
If
say
your
that
windows are
women now are
leaky, call
bolder
Tom.
and even defiant and more willing to stand up for themselves. And you can see it in the country. You
shit's
can
no
see it
joke,
in,
but we
in
didn't even
social
don't
media.
replay this
In
over and over.
the last
That's the only
few
time
years,
I'll
we've
turn it on.
seen moments of brave women, maybe online, and the likes of Me Too movement speaking up against sexual harassment. I remember before 10 years ago, like when I used to live in Egypt before 2008, if you're sexually harassed in the street, this is not something that you talk about publicly.
Hanan, thank you very much, and I hope that
Punch 'em
men
in the
in
damn
Egypt
nose
support
or
women
eye.
obtaining their voice.
Like
Hanan
karate
Razik
punches.
and Reem
Bam, bam,
Khattab
bam.
of
Hit him
BBC
right in the
Arabic,
fucking
thank you
face.
for joining us.
If everybody
It's
had
the
fought
second
back
highest
against the
mountain in the world,
KGB when they came to the door, there would have
8,611
been
meters
no
tall, and some call
KGB.
it the savage mountain for its
And
deadly
guess what?
reputation.
Right
This is
now,
K2
there
in
is no
Karakorum on the border
KGB.
between Pakistan and China, and no climber had ever succeeded in reaching the summit
Oh,
in winter.
Jesus, that's what you're talking
That is
about.
until just a few days ago, on January the 16th, when a
You
team
think
of
I'm
10
returning to the
Nepalese climbers
station? These
finally
motherfuckers
broke
just
the
changed the
record.
conversation.
Nearly all the climbers were from Nepal's Sherpa community, famed for their skills, but usually in the shadow of the foreign climbers they guide and support. BBC Nepal's Krishna
No, the only
Acharya
people I
told
think
David
of is
Amina
the,
about their achievement.
These 10
They're the ones that know how to
all of
climb the
them are
mountain.
very
Yeah, sure,
experienced
you were
mountaineers.
first. You see that?
They
Those
have
footprints you're
between them
walking in?
summited Mount Everest 54 times, and some of them very well known in Nepal.
So they've done Everest before, but not K2.
One of them have done K2 twice, but not in the winter.
So where did this idea come from, this idea of challenging K2 in winter?
There is a few things around it. I think the first thing was that K2 was only remaining 8,000 meter high mountain that was never concluded in winter season.
They call them 8,000, huh? 8,000 plus meters, yeah?
Yeah, and the Nepalese Sherpa community, they wanted to do something because they are very well known for climbing the mountains. They are the backbone of most of the climbing expeditions, but they rarely had records in their name. So they thought about this one last challenge that should go to their community as a record. So that was one of the ideas. The second idea, of course, came through this coronavirus when Nepal decided to close all the mountains.
How the fuck
So
are you
all
getting
these
close anyway? I can
Nepals,
wrap in like
they
6 layers.
kind of became jobless during the seasons where they should be very, very busy. And at the time, like when Nepal closed the mountains, Pakistan announced that they will not be closing the mountains. They will keep it open for the mountaineers who wanted to do it.
How do you close the
So
mountains,
the expedition
bro?
leader for this successful ascent, he had been managing the expedition in K2 since 2012. And they thought like, okay, maybe we should try this.
And just to note the significance of that achievement, reaching K2 in winter.
Yeah, so this actually is a huge moment for many Nepalese because there is this kind of a feeling among Nepalese. Of course, that feeling is very strong within the Sherpa community, but also within the larger Nepalese community that the Sherpas, they aren't getting the recognition that they deserve on the mountains. The thing is that most successful expeditions, like they do a lot of hard work to make these expeditions successful.
But this time they're at the center of the story.
Yeah, they are the heroes, they are the face on the newspaper.
Tell us more about that moment.
Bro,
just before they reached the summit, there were 3 teams, but they came together as one. How did they do that?
So they finished their work, they tied their ropes until Camp 2 or something like that. And then they said, okay, why don't we, instead of trying to overtake each other, why don't we just go together as a team, helping each other? And they stopped 10 meters before the summit. So when every team member is there, they sang National Anthem of Nepal, and then they walked on the top together.
And in photographs that we can see, there are also lines of flags in the background. What are those flags and what's the significance?
These are actually flags that are used by Sherpa communities or people following the Buddhism. It's common, very common in Nepal, and it's basically considered kind of like our communication channel to the gods. It's a prayer flag, and that signifies that they were successful.
So, Krishna, I know that when you look out your window each day, you see mountains, and when the air is clear, you can see snow peak mountains, big high peaks. So when you follow this story, I mean, is it still awesome for you? Was it kind of like, okay, well, we expected that to come sooner or later?
No, it's awesome, it's really awesome for me as well, because it's really has condition, especially in the winter. The snow is not common in Kathmandu, so even though I see mountaintops from my windows, it's more like a picture for me than kind of like life for me. The condition, especially in K2 in the winter, is very, very harsh. When we hear that the temperature was like -65 degree with high wind, that's unimaginable. And everybody, everybody for the last 30 years, season climbers, mountaineers, even the Sherpas have tried to do that. They haven't been successful. So that just gives us kind of like a shiver within my backbone. It's awesome. Even when we hear the news that if somebody has climbed this mountain and that mountain, that is still a big thing. But going on top of K2, trying to break that thing is very, very awesome for us.
Krishna Acharya of BBC Nepali speaking to David Amana from the capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, about the Nepalese climbers who have made their country proud by beating the rest of the world to the peak of K2.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media, producer and distributor of award-winning public radio content. APM, American Public Media, with support from Cabot Creamery, a farm family cooperative since 1919, crafting traditional cheddar cheese.
What did he just say, cheddar cheese?
It was most intense with a temperature of 49. Talking about earlier, many of us are looking at some flurries, heavy at times today. We already reached our guaranteed high of +2. Temperature's going to continue to fall to -4 for this afternoon. Right now, though, in downtown Toronto, we are looking at those breaks of sunshine, -1, feeling like -9.
Breaks of sunshine. It's been sunny the whole time I've been away.
The digital desk, 680 News Time, 1:30. #1 for news in Toronto.
The age of Aquarius. Knowledge and truth will take care of us.
Good afternoon. This is Friday, January 22nd for Sarah. I'm Irene Precklett.
And here's what's making news this hour. The Prime Minister has briefed the Queen and is looking at strengthening the vetting process for Governors General after Julie Payette resigns amid a cloud of workplace harassment allegations. Several key pandemic metrics still pointing down, with deaths still high and vaccinations stalling. The federal government says the next few weeks will be challenging, but Pfizer will catch up by the end of March.
Just over
over how many workers have COVID at the gigantic Canada Post sorting plant in Mississauga has resulted in all border service workers being pulled out and all the incoming international mail just left sitting there.
If you've been driving around and feel somebody like out there's going, vehicles on the roads, you're right. New data from the city shows that traffic is at its lowest levels since the first lockdown last spring.
Leafs without Matthews and Thornton tonight against Edmonton. The Raptors gear up for another one against Miami. Sports at 45.
A losing day on North American markets to close out the week. Shares in Intel take a hit, and the Canadian dollar down by more than half a cent. Business at 56.
Yeah, business.
680 News Time, 131.
That is time for 680 News, traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prenskus. This report is brought to you by Mark Feldstein and Associates. The westbound 401 is jammed right now from approaching Bayview to west of Yonge in the collectors. That's where the left lane is blocked because of a collision. Looks like it's just in the process of clearing right now. But be careful ahead of that westbound 401 as you're approaching Avenue Road in the collectors. Left shoulder, we have another collision, so we'll see what happens. MTO crews making their way towards this problem, so they may end up taking out a left lane at this scene. Eastbound on the 401, that's busy from Islington to the 400, mainly in the express lanes, and a slow go northbound 427 from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. We have a good drive, though, on the DVP and the Gardner, the QEW. That's in great shape as well. Be careful, though. We have some scattered flurries right now, coming down pretty heavily, actually, around the 404 and the 407, so just use extra caution. For all your personal and corporate tax accounting needs, call Mark Feldstein and Associates, Chartered Professional Accountants. Visit markfeldstein.ca, markfeldstein.ca. And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor. Flurries at times heavy, especially for the northern GTA winter weather travel advisory for areas like Newmarket through to Uxbridge. Already reached our guaranteed high, +2, with falling temperatures to about -4 through the afternoon. Mainly cloudy, some peaks of sunshine too. For today, already reached our guaranteed high, +2.
And we're playing a little peekaboo with that sunshine right now. It is gone. And we are looking at mostly cloudy conditions, -1 in the core, feeling like -9 when you factor in the wind. At Pearson right now, it looks like we got those exact same conditions. 680 News Time.
Well, it wasn't immunocompromised from the start, so I could be on the train going to the dentist's office right now.
Time on the resignation of Governor General Julie Payette, saying he has spoken with the Queen and is looking at ways to prevent this type of situation from happening again.
And with the latest details from Ottawa, here's 680's Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
The day after Julie Payette stepped down from the vice-regal role, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he's briefed the Queen about the situation.
Who the fuck's in charge of the army?
But Trudeau didn't directly answer questions about whether the government was aware before her appointment of workplace allegations
lost
against
a year
Payette
ago,
in her
trying to
previous
set my
two
own
jobs.
path.
He
I
says
wasn't
she went through a
exactly. I
rigorous
saw all
vetting
this
process,
happening.
but changes may have to be made.
We are looking right now at processes that can be strengthened as we move forward, and we will have more to say on that as we make decisions.
Trudeau also says they may look at changes to the annuity for governors general, which is basically a significant annual pension that Payette will receive. The Prime Minister doesn't say when he'll recommend a replacement for Payette. In the meantime, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is filling in as Governor General. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Well, today's Ontario's COVID-19 numbers mostly moving in the right direction, but the province also reporting one of its deadliest days. 680's Alex Bloomfield is here to break down all
numbers are down, except for...
Yeah, I read the number of new cases holding steady in the mid-2000s, 2,662 today. Resolved cases, though, exceeding new ones by over 700. And while the downward trend continues, there were also 87 deaths reported.
A change of 700
in a single day since the pandemic began. And only 11,175 people received COVID shots in the last 24 hours. That's over 3/4 of those were second doses, as the province is really rationing what they have left amid the delays with Pfizer. The Prime Minister addressing the Pfizer situation.
The one group of people you didn't
inoculate
was
the next few weeks
city's
will
essential
be
workers.
challenging.
Wow.
But
what a coincidence
they
there.
will receive all 4 million promised doses from Pfizer in the first quarter, so by March 31st.
The current momentary delay is so that they can increase their production overall going forward.
There will also be 500,000 Moderna vaccines
That's the white boy set up the drug
end
deal.
of March. And the federal government also mobilizing a couple of mobile health units to the GTA. Over 200.
He told me that the reason he doesn't have it now is because he'll have it later.
Places that will help free up space in overcrowded hospitals. Reporting live, I'm Alex Bloomfield. 680 News Time, 1:36. The check might be in the mail, but there could also be a delay. The Canada Post facility in Mississauga has seen dozens of its workers test positive for COVID-19, and we're learning now that there could be some delays in certain types of mail.
Please keep
Mark
messing with
Douglas
the
is joining us live
interface here.
from Mississauga.
I'm watching the volume control system. Just think of the implications of
Steve, the bottom line here
the
is
checks
you
in the
might not
mail.
be
It's
getting that
international
parcel
mail.
from the U.S. anytime soon, or you mentioned the check in the mail, Steve. If that check's coming from England or anywhere outside of Canada, don't hold your breath. Last evening, all the Canada Border Service Agency workers here at the Canada Post Gateway sorting plant were pulled out. National President
All the Canada Border Service Agency workers. You could have said agency. Fucking idiot.
over a dispute about just how many workers here at Gateway really have caught COVID-19.
Well, we're kind of shocked because how could you say that, you know, that the numbers of positive COVID cases that were tested over there was only around 20, and then you find out there's 100 more.
410 says the result is container after container of incoming international mail just left sitting there inside the plant. There's no one there now to process it.
Orders need to be there. Packages need to be processed through customs, and that's our responsibility.
And the effect on home delivery will be immediate, says 410, and he has no idea how long it'll take to solve this problem and to know that the plant is safe inside.
Do they only process international mail? What about the place on Eastern Avenue that processes our mail here in Toronto? What the fuck are you talking about?
Reporting live outside the Gateway plant in Mississauga, I'm Mark Douglas.
Well, it looks like people in Toronto are following the stay-at-home order, or at
Gateway's the name
least
of a
they're
Salvation Army
driving
men's
less.
shelter.
680's Melvin Qureshi joins us with an explanation.
If you've been out on the roads over the last month and feel like there are fewer vehicles out there, Eric Holmes with the city says the numbers show you are correct.
You know, you're right. Anecdotally, when you're out, I think it's plain to see that there are fewer vehicles overall on the road. Right now, we're at the fewest number of vehicles since the first lockdown, measuring our data.
In fact, one of the metrics used to measure traffic data shows since the second lockdown started almost a month ago, there was only 63% of regular traffic flow. That's the lowest since the first lockdown last March. Holmes says it's particularly noticeable in the morning.
People have been following the advice of our public health official who's staying home and traveling less. We've seen a different kind of morning rush hour. It's been spread out. There's been fewer cars in general.
Holmes says there's been a significant reduction of traffic through school zones, which makes sense since schools are online only right now. I'm Melvin Qureshi.
Well, the new COVID variant first detected in the UK might actually be more lethal than we previously thought. That from British Prime Minister Boris Johnson today.
Socialists.
Now, he also says the
Why do you all have to go to work at the exact same time every day? They move the clocks back an hour. You still all go at the exact same time and complain you're stuck in traffic.
5.4 million people across the UK have now received their first dose of the vaccine, and over the last 24 hours, we can report a record 400,000 vaccinations.
Yeah, but you know, we don't know what time it is.
Right now are more than 78% higher than during the first wave. Right now, nearly 96,000 people in Britain have died of COVID-19.
Back here at home, a winter weather travel advisory remains in effect for some areas north of the city, including Caledon, Newmarket, and Uxbridge. Environment Canada says drivers should watch out for blowing snow that will make travel difficult. Local snowfall amounts of up to 10 centimeters are possible by tomorrow morning. Well, still to come on 680 News, we'll see where the price at the pumps is heading.
680 News Time, 1:39. At Toyota, safety isn't optional. That's why our vehicles come with Toyota safety
Again, they tell us it's more lethal than they'll tell us anything.
Intelligent safety features that other car companies turn.
Trop longtemps j'ai pas ouvert de vie, je suis pas. J'ai pensé c'est trop proposé. J'ai pleuré seul le soir, elle m'a pas qui le bord. Je veux juste jouer au skateboard avec qui le bord. Je veux pas l'été dans des cafés de cette pizzerie. Je veux les freestyle depuis les pizzeries.
Son souvenir de voyage, c'est la première fois qu'il a mis le pied sur les Champs-Élysées, parce qu'il n'est pas d'une classe, c'est 15 minutes. Champs-Élysées.
For how the primary actors govern themselves. And a manual like that would probably articulate something like, here's the role of the Governor General, here's what we expect that person to do. There's a place where
manual like that probably would. You see there's no manual?
Like this. And maybe there will be advice to the Prime Minister from people like this, right? Like, and then you can sort of have this expectation that even though it is a prime ministerial appointment, that there is some transparency around it, and there's some
it's a nomination
actually based on whether it's rules or whatever.
Never heard of you.
There's some accountability to people over how that position is filled.
A lot of chatter online. Well, first and foremost is whether or not Celine Dion should be our next Governor General. But aside from that, a lot of people are talking about whether or not we can still need a Queen's representative in Ottawa, a Governor General in 2021 and beyond. You know, the Governor General, the role is largely ceremonial, obviously, and, you know, I think it'd be hard-pressed to find many Canadians that can remember, kind of a single speech a Governor General has made. So is there a case to be made for maybe, saying goodbye to that position?
You can't.
I mean, I've heard that argument a lot, and that argument certainly precedes this particular case. The trouble with it is, I mean, in certain ways, I can imagine a scenario where we don't have that role, right? Like, so for instance, a cabinet swearing in or a cabinet shuffle, as we saw last week, like it can be a very rudimentary ceremony, and even if it's a really, big thing, probably the Prime Minister and the Clerk of the Privy Council can handle that. Like, some of the ceremonial stuff, we could get someone else to do it. The trouble is, if you start pulling this position out of the Constitution, our Constitution doesn't actually refer to the Prime Minister. It refers to the Governor General and the Queen's Privy Council, and so we have to change all that. And so, for instance, like even appointing senators, the Prime Minister makes a decision, but he gives it as advice, and then the Governor General does it. And so if we said, okay, we're going to take out the Governor General part, maybe we just acknowledge outright that the Prime Minister
Governor General only takes orders from the Queen.
But then it's like, well, okay, why would we have a Senate that was like 105 people
appointed
by the Prime Minister? Why wouldn't we have an elected Senate? Or why would we have a Senate at all? So then other things start changing.
That is a good question.
And so even, if
why don't you
even on the
focus on
confidence
that?
side, if a Prime Minister lost confidence, then what? There are other ways to handle it, but we have to come up with a way. And so the trouble is, if you start pulling that piece out of the Constitution, the rest of it doesn't remain intact. We have to build the whole thing up again.
Yeah, because I was thinking a lot of people would say, listen, my company has had to streamline and downsize over the last several years. Would it be such a bad thing if Ottawa or government had to do that? But as you indicate, it's a little more complicated than just that. We are talking about rewriting the way that government does business.
Of the Bank of Canada,
and it would be as difficult as that.
All right, Laurie, really appreciate the time. Fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for this, and have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Laurie Turnbull's with the Department of Political Science at Dalhousie University. As we get a check in the Friday Drive, London News Radio, 640 Toronto.
Entrer dans une espèce de rhétorique, de retourner un peu cet univers-là sur lui-même, puis de déjouer un peu les codes traditionnels.
Oui, et ça fonctionne. Il y a quelque chose d'acide qui est intéressant aussi, puis qui va bien avec le genre musical. Alors, on va écouter un extrait d'un interlude que vous placez sur l'album. C'est un moment d'une entrevue de Corias et de Fouki chez nos collègues, c'est chez Jean-Philippe Gaultier à Bonsoir, Bonsoir. Et là, il y a une volonté éditoriale de votre part, clairement, de faire entendre les propos de Fouki et de Corias. On va en écouter un tout petit extrait.
Les filles d'emblée vont pas, comme nous autres au secondaire, on est une gang de gars à faire du rap. Il n'y a aucune fille qui faisait du rap. Je pense que ça va venir naturellement qu'il va y avoir plus de rappeurs qui vont s'installer, qui vont prendre leur place. Oui, mais il n'y en a pas tant que ça. Il n'y en a pas beaucoup qui sont arrivés au même niveau de qualité que nous autres en ce moment. Il n'y en a pas tant que ça. Il y en a toutes.
Non, mais c'était là. With our new Casper mattress.
See flyer, restaurant.com for details. Relocate. Would you be willing to relocate for work if it meant a pay cut? I do want to get your calls 1-855-633-1010 or send us a text at 7.
That is a horrible false premise.
Je vais quand même laisser un certain crédit. Corias, il va téléphoner.
It's an alternative to what?
Il était pas très confortable avec ce qu'il avait dit, puis il trouve qu'il a échappé un peu. Puis moi, je lui laisse vraiment le crédit-là, d'être allé de front, puis d'avoir abordé cette question-là. C'est pas nécessairement ça qu'il voulait dire, mais je pense que ce que ça soulève, c'est certains angles morts. Dans le sens, on se vend un peu l'idée qu'en laissant aller les choses, ça va se placer naturellement. Mais il y a quand même tu sais, c'est quand même ces entremembres-là qui font qu'on reconduit toujours cette culture un peu de boys, tu sais, puis c'est un peu ça que je voulais soulever, là, puis ça me fait rire que vous ayez joué l'extrait parce qu'on s'y attendait un peu. Tu sais, moi, j'en ai beaucoup jasé avec Kate Magané, est-ce qu'on le met ou on le met pas sur l'album? Moi, je lance mon premier album solo, j'ai pas envie... les rappeurs, là, puis...
Looks like it will result in the slowdown of international mail.
Is this Supertramp? I could see you in the morning when you go to school. Don't forget this quote said, live by the golden rule.
With your offense and 88 wins will get you.
Some to do and some to don't.
There's some that don't give a fuck.
Some that will and some that won't. Some it's just as well. See the confidence of my Savior, and I don't need no evil. And I don't know what time it's shining like from you.
We can help you enjoy. Yeah. 680 News Time, 148.
Prime Minister Trudeau is telling Canadians to take the advice of health officials and stay home. He says that especially goes for anyone thinking of taking a trip south for spring break.
No one should be taking a vacation abroad right now. If you've got one planned, cancel it. And don't book a trip for spring break.
Trudeau is also urging everyone not to travel anywhere else in the country until COVID-19 case numbers can be reduced. An elite Taekwondo coach convicted of sexually assaulting a teen student has pleaded guilty to more sex-related charges involving a second student. Shin Wook Lim pleaded guilty to 2 charges in virtual court this morning. Another 3 related to the same student have been withdrawn. The charges were set to be tried separately from the ones he was convicted on last week. Lim was found guilty last week of 10 charges, including sexual assault and sexual interference in connection with a series of incidents involving a high-level athlete who trained with him in Toronto. The incidents took place between 2015 and 2017 in several locations, including the studio's offices and training camps in South Korea. South of the border, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will send the article of impeachment against Donald Trump to the U.S. Senate on Monday. ABC's Rachel Scott says Trump will then face his second impeachment trial in 2 years.
With Democrats now in control, it will be up to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to lay out the timeline for a trial. Trump left Washington before Biden even took the oath of office, spending his first full day out of the White House on the golf course. He's had a hard time finding a legal team to defend him, but now he's named his first lawyer, South Carolina attorney Butch Bowers, to represent him.
Trump was acquitted by the Republican-led Senate at his first impeachment trial. Coming up, traffic and weather together on ones, including that cold weekend forecast.
680 News Time, 150.
At Scotiabank, we know it's easier to balance your savings goals and enjoy your life.
This song's long as hell.
Là, ce sont les souvenirs de voyage de Patrick Sarrazin qu'on vient de réanimer avec cette pièce tirée de l'album Breakfast America de Supertramp. Il est 13h50 minutes.
Breakfast in America. Right.
C'est d'une artiste qui s'appelle Eadze. Eadze, c'est une jeune autrice, compositrice, interprète du Rwanda. Elle a grandi aux îles de la Madeleine. Puis elle explore des sonorités très pop, au goût du jour ces temps-ci. Mais il y a une souche qui est soul, qui est vraiment très forte. Et qui lègue de ses ancêtres. C'est son grand-père du clan, du loup et de la famille Corbeau qui guide la jeune Eadze vers la musique. Donc sa famille des origines rwandanaises, comme vous avez compris. Ce sont donc des éléments importants dans ses créations musicales. C'est très imagé aussi, vous en entendez dans quelques instants. Moi, ce que j'apprécie, c'est on sent comme une tendresse, mais on sent une force dans la musicale. Et puis, même si elle traite là, parfois des sujets qui sont quand même abrasifs, il y a toujours un aspect positif qui sort à travers sa musique. Ouais, on va l'entendre tout de suite avec la pièce qui s'appelle Who Is In There? C'est Eadze qu'on écoute en ce vendredi après-midi à la radio musicale de
Lightly travels. You'll find a smooth drive on the Gardner into and out of the city, and no problems affecting the DV.
Absolutely fine if we stay in touch with our teachers and share with them the concerns and work together.
The things that.
Delays, especially on Wellesley in both directions there. The Mercedes-Benz Durham Sprinter event. Get lease and finance rates as low as 2.99% and special savings on remaining 2020 Sprinter vans. Details at mercedes-benzdurham.com. And now with the extended forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Flurries could be at times heavy, especially for the northern GTA today, tonight, and early Saturday morning. Otherwise, mainly cloudy, some peaks of sunshine and colder air working in. We've already reached our guaranteed high +2. Falling temperatures today to -4. It'll feel colder with that gusty wind out of the west-northwest. -10 for the low. Feel like -18 overnight. For the weekend, morning flurries Saturday, sun and cloud, cold high -5, cloudy on Sunday -4. For today, already reached our guaranteed high +2.
Sun's gone now in downtown Toronto. We have got pretty much overcast conditions. It's -1, feeling like -9 when you factor in the wind, and the same conditions now at Pearson.
Coming up at 2 o'clock, the Prime Minister speaking for the first time on the resignation of Governor General Julie Payette, saying he's spoken with the Queen and is looking at ways to prevent this type of situation from happening again. We'll also have the latest numbers on Ontario's COVID-19 cases.
680 News Time, 1:53.
Many people suffer from anxiety and depression. They feel an immense sense of despair. I'm Neenish Kotak, and at Kotak Law, we help clients who've been...
That's our hands.
Exactly. Yeah, I also wanted to mention.
You're dumbass.
Oh, you basically stole my thunder. I mean, this ridiculous concept I've been hearing talk about for quite a while now, but based on your demographics and where you live, how much you get paid, you're doing the same job for the same company. The company's making the same amount of money from you, whether you live in Toronto, Guelph, or you live in London. It's irrelevant. I don't get the concept. It's the goal almost. It's a ridiculous concept. I don't get it. Like to me, if you was a semi-experienced contractor, for example, paying $25 an hour in Toronto, you can never get that.
Yeah, Frank. I mean, to me, it feels kind of like devaluing the labor, right? Where it's like, oh, your labor's actually making us the same amount of money, but you come up with a justification to pay less whatsoever.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Frank. Appreciate it. Your texts continue to come in. Someone here saying no.
These pyramid structures and hierarchies, the worst people get promoted up and out. It's the only way to get rid of them.
Another excellent point. If you were coming into the office, right, they're paying some cost, utilities, rent, to give you maybe a parking space they pay for too.
They pay for it because you aren't paying that as a benefit.
On 680 News, Canadians were shopping quite a bit in November. Chris McCusker will have those details in the business report.
Oh, don't look at me like you have
to That's not really an investment.
In times like these, shouldn't your money work even harder for you? We think so.
That's why at Duca Credit Union, you get
charge more for the weed. I only gotta work.
Text message says, my employer already has pay scales based on where your work location is. Pay cuts should be unacceptable if return to the workplace is no longer an option. Businesses will save tons of money with the overhead of having a physical location no longer needed. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying as well. I think that's a great point. And interesting that some companies, I'm sure, already...
What nobody's talking about is how many businesses can actually do that. Most of them can't.
I'm Erica Amini. This is Money 123. Retirement is a very big goal that is also very far off into the future when you're young.
That's what makes it a big goal, bitch. When you're young. I love it when people talk down. It's like, you're young. Thank you.
680 News time, 156. And that is time for the 680 News Business Report and Chris McCusker. So, Chris,
I thought I had
anything today?
some news today.
Not today, but I was doing a fair bit of shopping back in November, Irene, and it seems I was
how
not
much
the
more
only
deadly
one.
is this
For
new
7 straight months,
variant?
retail
What is
sales
that?
did see a gain in November. StatCan says
COVID
there was
is a
an
novel
increase of
virus.
1.3%, essentially extending the comeback since the collapse in April. And of course, Black Friday and holiday shopping getting the credit here. But it's not likely to continue. Doug Porter is chief economist at the Bank of Montreal.
I think we're seeing a pullback in activity in December and January. And I don't mean just retail sales. You know, we've already had the employment numbers for December, and we saw a decline. Within the retail sales report, we were pointing out that Manitoba was the one province that saw a decline in November, and Manitoba was actually early with some of the restrictions, and I think they serve as a little bit of a canary for other provinces. We also think that there probably was some rush to buy things ahead of the restrictions that we all knew were coming.
Yeah, the Canadian dollar's off by about 0.6 of a cent, 78.54 cents US, although by and large that has more to do with strength in the US dollar today than this data out of StatsCan. The TSX down 73, 17,842, with gold down by $11, 18.58. And then oil is lower by 67 cents, 52.46 a barrel. So a lozenge plant in Prince Edward Island has laid off 30 workers, citing an almost non-existent cold and cough season. Island Abbey Foods says sales in cough and cold lozenges have declined in the first 2 quarters of 2021. And interesting, both Metro and Loblaw companies have also seen weak cough and cold season sales at pharmacies within their chains. On Wall Street, we've got markets still in the red, but also lows for the day. The
social contract type of agreement. You're going to do everything possible to make your fucking customers sick.
Today, that stock down 8.5%. The incoming CEO is pledging to regain the company's lead in chip manufacturing, much to the chagrin of some investors. The company, having said that, did report a record-breaking 2020, $77.9 billion in revenue, up by 8% from 2019. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
Now is the perfect time to upgrade to Mazda and experience the added confidence of iActive all-wheel drive. When you upgrade to Mazda,
Vital part of your community and truly care about their neighbors. They employ...
Now, if you want to wrap up what you bought, you may be asking, 能帮我包起来吗？能。1907年，美国海军信天翁号前往菲律宾考察，对海底世界充满向往的伊藤雄太郎受邀前往，一同参与对菲。
This together. A message from Chorus Radio and Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
159, let's head out to the road.
Everybody's buying boats so they can just sail away from everything. That's what that's the other thing they said.
伊藤先在和纸上做好草图，再通过细致的观察进行补充和注释。在新天翁号上停留了16个月后， 伊藤为70只裸鳃海葵鱼和超过100条鱼绘制了素描和油画。当新天文号于1910年返回旧金山时，通过各种方法收集的49万件标本被送往美国国家博物馆。可靠的彩色摄影要到半个世纪后才出现。伊藤准确的描绘为后来的人们了解了。
Fuck, man. Fuck. Oh, you guys are so fucking predictable. This is pathetic. So predictable, it's pathetic.
The Voice of South China Sea from China Radio International.
Yeah, now you're gonna lock it up so I can't change the station. You're good. So good at this. You're gonna show the world. Every time I say pedophile, see, my eyes are open. I can see my irises. Yep, up and down, up and down, up and down. Is that how you groom little kids? You tell them you live in the TV set or some shit? Fucking idiot.
For discipline inspection. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says.
Keep it up. Every time I blink, you're freezing the screen trying to find the moment at which my eyes are closed.
The White House said on Thursday that U.S. President Joe Biden will seek
up and down, up and down, up and down. Are you mad that this isn't working?
Ahead of its expiration on
give a
February
fuck
the
about
5th.
that.
The
We're
Kremlin.
going to leave it on this for the next 12 hours. You idiots can play with that. While you're stuck in the rat trap, I'm going to be out killing your homeboys. You think I'm fucking joking? He can't, buddy. Look at the chair you're sitting in is worn out. Look at the keys on the keypad worn out. You've never seen that room before? You're doing the same thing the last 6 idiots.
王毅表示，中国政府已决定向巴方提供义务。
Beijing with the city of Harbin. And chairman of the Central Military Commission
2 minutes before
made the remarks on Friday when addressing the 5th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Commission for Discipline
going to the internet for some reason and making
the Chinese Foreign Ministry says China hopes the U.S. will continue to work with Russia to ensure the smooth extension of the New START arms treaty. Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying says the extension will be conducive to maintaining global strategic stability, peace, and security. The White House said on Thursday that U.S. President Joe Biden will seek a 5-year extension of the New START arms control treaty with Russia ahead of its expiration on February the 5th. The Kremlin on Friday welcomed Biden's intention to extend the treaty by 5 years, but said that Moscow wanted to see concrete proposals from Washington. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty stipulates limits to numbers of deployed strategic nuclear warheads and delivery systems. It can be extended by a
verbal harassment of her staff at Rio Hall. 680's President Ale reporter Cormac
Turkish
McTreaty joins us
President
with more.
Recep Tayyip
Prime Minister
Erdogan
Justin
says
Trudeau faced a
10 million
grilling
doses of
around his
COVID-19
resignation.
vaccines are expected to
when asked
arrive.
if the government was aware that Julie Payette faced similar allegations in her previous 2 jobs. Trudeau says Payette faced the rigorous checks that every governor general goes through.
The vetting process that was in place was followed, but obviously we're going to also look at ways we can strengthen and improve the vetting process for high-level appointments.
But he didn't say exactly how he wants to change that process. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh suggests Trudeau share some blame in the situation.
Who was more interested in a flashy announcement of the Governor General rather than doing the work of making sure it was the right selection.
The Prime Minister briefed the Queen on the resignation, but hasn't said when he'll recommend a replacement. In the meantime, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will be filling in. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
How is it
Ontario's
possible?
COVID
Where's
case
the
numbers are
legal
moving, of
basis
course,
for
in the
that?
right direction, heading into the second weekend of this stay-at-home order. But a spike in deaths and some ongoing vaccine delivery delays are starting to cast a bit of a dark cloud over these positive trends. And 6 Cities' Alex Bloomfield joining us
is live with the latest pandemic developments. Alex. State test positivity now at 3.3% in the province, the lowest since December 13th. And the active case count was down by over 700 today as the province reported 2,662 new COVID-19 infections and over 71,000 completed tests. And while the trend lines are good, here are two that are not so good. 87 more deaths, the third deadliest day of the pandemic so far in Ontario. And vaccines, only 11,175 shots administered yesterday, 80% of them second doses as the Pfizer supply runs dry. The Prime Minister calling the drug maker but unable to secure a change to the paltry delivery schedule for the next 3 weeks. But he says they will make up for it within the first quarter.
We will receive all of our 4 million doses from Pfizer before March 31st.
And Canada will also receive 500,000 Moderna doses before the end of March. Prime Minister also sending 2 mobile hospital units to the GTA.
This will provide up to 200 additional hospital beds and free up space for people who need ICU
You only
care.
make those little mistakes
Hospitalizations were down slightly by about 25 today in the province. Reporting live, I'm Alex Bloomfield.
The Canada Border Services Agency has pulled its workers out of a Canada Post plant in Mississauga after 100 employees tested positive for COVID-19. The issue could cause delays for international mail. 680's Mark Douglas is outside the plant in Mississauga and joins us live with the latest. Mark.
I read that online order coming up from the States might not be getting to your mailbox anytime soon, all because of a dispute over
that
the
is
COVID
international
infection
traffic.
count here at the gigantic Canada Post Gateway sorting plant in Mississauga. The Canada Border Services Agency pulled all its workers out of Gateway last evening because there might be 6 times as many infected Canada Post workers here than Canada Post was saying.
So we just
They use 53-foot van bodies.
Suddenly, you got from 20 to 120. Is this more?
And that's Union President Jean-Pierre Fortin. No CBSA workers inside Gateway means no one is there to perform the customs inspections on incoming international mail. It's all just sitting there inside container after container. And Fortin says the 100 or so CBSA workers are not coming back until they can trust this plant is safe.
Something is wrong somewhere, and you cannot play with the life of our officers there, the health safety of our officers.
Fortin says the effect on home delivery will be immediate. Still no reply to the questions we've sent over to Canada Post.
People cross into Canada on the land border by driving up, pointing a gun out the window.
Okay, so if you're outside right now, look around you. Are you noticing a little less traffic these
not
days?
to try to stop anybody from crossing the border,
Toronto actually shows
just to notify the local
volumes are at their
police.
lowest levels in months.
Yeah, city level
City's
cops
Qureshi has been looking at those numbers for us and joins us with the details.
You can see it with your own eyes if you're driving around. There are fewer vehicles on the road. Eric Holmes, the city tells me it's not just anecdotal. The numbers back it up.
When the lockdown orders came into place following Christmas, we saw another lockdown. So right now we're seeing numbers that aren't quite as low as last year's lockdown, but considerably lower than they've been over the last few months.
The data shows right now traffic
Last
is
year's
at
lockdown, they weren't
63%
testing
of
anybody,
normal
you fucking
pre-pandemic
idiot.
levels. Holmes says morning rush hour is almost non-existent, while afternoon rush numbers are also down.
We're seeing that congestion in the afternoon even drop further, so that we're getting closer to free flow numbers because people are staying home.
These are the lowest numbers we've seen since the original lockdown last spring. I'm Momin Qureshi.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has updated his country on the fight against COVID-19.
We've been informed today that in addition to spreading more quickly, it also now appears that there is some evidence that the new variant, the variant that was first identified in London and the South East, may be associated with a higher degree of mortality.
He says hospitalizations are more than 78% higher than at the peak of the first wave. But he says all current evidence shows that both vaccines remain effective against both the new and old variants.
Well, this portion of 680 News brought to you today by the Herzig Eye Institute. As you've been hearing in our weather reports, areas north of the city, and even Kerry's starting to see some of it now in traffic, could see a little bit more snowfall by the end of tomorrow. A winter weather travel advisory is in effect this afternoon and into tonight for northern York, Peel, and Durham regions. Now, Environment Canada is also warning that travelers there will be some reduced visibility and even some heavy snow at times.
680 News Time 209.
Hi, I'm Sherry Tabb, co-founder of the Herzig Eye Institute. Thank you for the wonderful things you're saying and posting and sharing about our safety, our staff, and our surgeons. Our people inspire me. Let them inspire you to free yourself from glasses, contact lenses, and cataracts. Say I've had it and come to Herzig. Google Herzig Eye Institute. Call us for a consultation. There's no charge. Herzig is prepared. You're protected. Look after yourself. Promise me.
And now the 680 News gas price update. Info says the price of gas is set to go up a penny at midnight to $1.12.9 a liter.
680 News time, 2:10. Everybody's looking for a change right now, dreaming of being able to pay for upgrades or renovations without taking on that financial burden. Just think about it. We renovated 3 years ago, but it still feels like there's a million things I'd like to do today. A Flexi line by Capital Direct allows you to manage your resources more effectively.
Hear that mentality to present it as being normal. As being normal and a good investment. But borrowing money to upgrade your house will increase its value. Housing bubble. And then they're going to tell you, don't sell it to a foreigner. And then, by the way, that 15% tax is going to cut into your over. Oh, it doesn't apply here. It sure does, because you can move to BC or you can move here. Why are you borrowing money to re-renovate when nobody likes your fucking renovations?
Worldwide basis, that's good news. So
you see the same house renovated 3 times in 3 years because people keep buying it and flipping it.
Every day, every week as to what the conditions are. But if at all possible, and if it could be done safely, the games are a go.
Right, you mentioned a couple times about bubbling. I was just wondering what the discussions have been at the IOC, and is bubbling, is it even possible for something like the Olympic Games, which, you know, obviously is an international or worldwide event? We've seen some other sports. I'm thinking about the NHL in particular here, and hockey.
The IOC
they come with an all-Canadian division to keep with the teams and the players.
The IOC doesn't care about anything but money.
Obviously, that's something that's...
and that's why nobody who goes to the games ever gets money out of it.
You're going to find some snow depending where you are. We have these flurries very scattered. I'm looking at the 404 around Steeles and some pretty heavy flakes falling there. But if I just go to one camera south of Steeles and one camera north of Steeles, bone dry. So just be prepared for those changing weather conditions. Eastbound on the 401, that's busy from Islington to the 400 in the Express. And a slow go northbound 427 from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. MTO is reporting some emergency construction northbound on the 404 near Finch. Haven't seen those crews set up yet, but just be aware of that. They might end up taking out that right lane very soon. The Gardner, that's moving well, both into and out of the city, and no problems on the QEW in either direction. We still have a closure in town. Young is shut down between Wellesley and Gloucester. That's for a collision investigation. The safety of drivers both on and off the road means everything to 407 ETR. That's why they've developed a COVID assistance program for those who need it most. And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Flurries at times heavy, otherwise mainly cloudy, some sunny breaks, a winter weather travel advisory for the North GTA where the heaviest snow will be with the snow squalls. Already reached our guaranteed high +2, dropped to -4 this afternoon, -10 for the low. Will feel like -18 overnight. Bit of sunshine for the weekend, mainly Saturday, but highs near -5. For today, already reached our guaranteed high +2.
Right now, downtown 0 and cloudy. It's -2, but feeling like -9 at Pearson.
By the way, -10 road salt no longer melts snow. You're literally wasting the salt.
Business Center, and Chris, it continues to be a down day.
But a winning week for U.S. markets, a losing week on Bay Street. So the TSX right now down 81 points. 17,834. Just going to check the latest stat here. Yeah, it's down this week by 0.4%, so a modest pullback. The price for gold pressuring Bay Street today, it's down $9, $18.59.
So she's obviously clearing her voice before her throat before she gets on the mic.
52.37, and the Canadian dollar down 56.100, 78.5. 78.56 cents US. Now the Dow dropped by more than 200 points at one point. Now it's down 127. So some recovery. The S&P off by 8. The NASDAQ down by 14. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
We're all rethinking risk these days. Your investments should be no exception. A financial advisor can help you build a resilient portfolio.
Dropping 127 points is some recovery.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting year. And if you're like me, maybe you've been drinking more than usual and you want to take a break. Well, with Drive, that is easy, and you'll be supporting the Canadian
Cancer diplomat's search for his lost love is all that prevents the destruction of Canada with global consequences.
And support services for people affected by cancer.
Get to this okay, when everything goes offline and it's just me, my internet connection
it. Everybody else is dead. I'm sitting here reading books to myself.
It's easier than you think.
Think you can hide from the CRA? Think again. CRA uses extensive technology. It's only a matter of
These
time
people
until they
roll up
find
in
you.
black
CRA
Fords
can
every
freeze your
time.
wages, empty your bank account, lean your house,
Wearing
or
the same
recommend criminal
goddamn.
prosecution.
It's
not
okay. So
too late.
American
You
soldiers,
can bring your
GIs,
taxes
you
up to
always
date
look like
and
you're in
arrange to
uniform.
settle your taxes.
If I gave you
We
my
do this
clothes,
every day at Mark
I look like a bit of a
Feldstein
thug, like I jumped out of my rap video. You would look like a soldier
professional accountants
wearing
today.
civvy clothes.
Visit markfeldstein.ca.
These government people dress the same way.
markfeldstein.ca.
It's not a uniform, but
This is All
it's
News
uniform.
Radio, 680 News.
And these fucking white people, they'll walk under. Remember us?
Temperature right now -1, but
I've seen 100 crackheads go through this all the way.
Winds, by the way, 52 kilometers an hour downtown, making it feel more like -9. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Roberts.
And I'm Irene.
Oh, we heard the TV running, and then he chased us down the hallway.
The Prime Minister today speaking for the first time on the resignation of Governor General Julie
That sounds
Payette,
ridiculous
saying
at the end
that
of
he
it all.
wasn't
You're trying to pretend that somehow you got scared of me in a neighborhood where you could get fucking shot.
Trudeau was also facing grilling today, and he did from a number of reporters on the
Why are you threatening us?
Payette,
I don't have to
where
threaten you.
reports said
You're on my
she'd had
fucking
previous
land.
problems at a
This
number
land
of
kills
other
everything that ain't
workplaces. Ontario now seeing 2,662 new cases of COVID-19 today, based on almost 72,000 tests across this province. It comes as Ontario continues to do with the frustration following the availability of COVID vaccines. And coming up after sports, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying that the decision by President Biden to cancel the permit for Keystone was difficult news for a lot of workers.
There's no permit. There's nowhere to go. There's no permit off pipelines. The executive order. How far off am I from the
Well,
truth?
Steve, a baseball icon,
This
has
fight goes
left
back
us.
6 years.
remember there's someone who was able to forget about baseball, play the game
Oh,
away.
shut up. If we fall, we'll get back up.
Bailando, bailando, bailando. Yo por el río llenando el pasillo, subiendo y bajando. Bailando, bailando. Ese juego por dentro me va enloqueciendo, me va saturando.
Tokyo, except to be the Olympic Village. And if you've seen, past Olympics, those Olympic villages, it's like dormitory living. It's like living in a dorm.
Absolutely.
What you've all done, because you had to go somewhere with a dorm to get this job,
we held
right?
here, they built facilities like dormitories so that there's really a tight capacity, and that's the design.
Don't show up,
Because it's expensive to host an Olympic game, and certainly in a place like Japan, even more so, with square footage being such a premium.
Oh, shut up! They've
I just don't know
negative
if
interest
you
loans.
have equations.
I don't
and
think
then
you understand
hear
the cost
what
of money.
we've heard from Justin Trudeau. How do you make that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, as Mr. Pound just had told us there, we'll see what the coming months bring, and it sounds as if there's sort of that 60-day window as to a drop-dead date as to, making a final decision on whether the Tokyo Olympics will indeed be a go. But having said all of that, I will say this. I mean, it's been nice to turn the TV on and watch hockey. It gives us something to do. It's a bit of a comfort for...
So there's they call the West Donlands, where they say these buildings. I'm a little confused because it's not the West Donland. The West Donlands is on the other. I don't know where they're talking, which factories they're trying to knock down. The Canada Iron and Metal Company's on Eastern, closer to Leslie, Empire Street or some shit. In any event, there's a whole bunch of square kilometers down there you can build all sorts of shit on. And there's no street lights, and there's shit that happens in the dark, and so much dope been moved, it's incredible, and dead bodies everywhere. They used to find hookers beat half to death, then dropped dead later, dumped in the middle of the road down there on Commissioner Street. They find homeless people down there dead. They say they die of natural causes, but they can't identify who the person is. They're describing what Neil Young rock concert t-shirt they're wearing on the police website. All sorts of things happen in the dark down there. And they want to bring in billions of dollars of spending that's going to be borrowed that we're going to have to pay for it. These real corrupt assholes rolling around in their It wasn't Escalades back then. That was the Genos. These fucking Lincolns and Cadillacs and shit, trying to look cool. And they're the big guy in charge. You ain't in charge of shit, bro. You remember me? The guy standing on the corner panhandling? Remember me?
Yay for details.
A grievance committee of the New York court system claiming Giuliani has violated the rules of professional conduct. The group wants Giuliani investigated.
I don't get it, though. I don't get it. How come you can't recognize my face? I don't understand, sir. You don't remember us? You don't remember us?
About the 2020 election. The complaint
you don't remember setting the tannery on fire? Hundreds of barrels of cyanide and arsenic on fire?
Stormed the U.S. Capitol earlier this
month. We had nothing but bandanas to cover our faces with. You wet the bandana.
Process that could lead to disbarment.
Oh, you can't wear a wet mask. It doesn't work when it's dry, stupid. It literally won't work when it's dry.
80%. I had no idea. Maybe it's time for me to take action and protect my wealth. Where can I find out more? I just opened a TFSA at Guildhall Wealth with real physical gold. They're great, and they do all types of accounts. Just go to guildhallwealth.com or call
that's not physical gold.
1-877-8-SILVER.
If you call me now, I'll set aside some of my gold separately as yours. If you transfer money to me, what are you talking about?
And later in the crop. Today, that pursuit is over. With good food, you can get delicious, ready-to-cook meals like caramelized onion, baked cheese, tortellini.
It's a homage, isn't quite a throwback to the BBC documentaries, and then what was it? The Wild World, and not the Wild World, was for the Wild World, and the was it Graham Greene or something? Mutual of Omaha.
Including a ghost, applause, and life imitating The Simpsons, La Cucaracha.
Life isn't imitating The Simpsons, you fucking whore. That was a short, animated shorts for the Tracy Ullman show in, what was it, 87? 87 or 88, and the show came on in 89, I think, I could be wrong. And it's a satire of the Western world, a complete satire, where Donald Trump could become president. How many times have they said they predicted the future or whatever? Not quite. It's a really well-produced satire, is what it is. That people don't get it. You're sitting on the couch watching a cartoon for the first 60, 90 seconds every day. They're running home to jump on the couch and watch TV just like you're doing. And you didn't get it. You're racist against Asians. They made all the white people yellow. You still didn't get it.
From the comfort of your living room, every Wednesday and Thursday at 7 p.m., we host Delta Bingo at Home live on Facebook with a minimum of $20,000 in prizes.
The Simpsons adopted and rescued a dog. Santa's little helper was called that because he was a race dog.
Across Ontario. Let the gaming begin. Details at deltabingo.com.
Prince had a dog. Donald Trump, no dog.
Must be 18 years of age.
The first president in like forever that didn't have a dog.
Nearly the entire population of Kitchener would be diagnosed every year. Right now, one Canadian hears it's cancer.
This is the white woman
every 3
voice
minutes.
that promotes white supremacy.
By the Canadian Cancer
Well, I'm a
Society
girl.
now
You
know
can't hurt
cancer
me.
isn't one, but more than
I'm not a
100
child
different
molester.
diseases.
I'm gay and I'm married.
That's
And I
why we
adopt
fund the
kids.
geniuses and dreamers researching all cancers. Donate
Oh,
at
get mad,
cancer.ca because
Get mad and jam it up, Mr. YouTube admin. Get mad, Mr. YouTube admin. Get mad, Mr. YouTube admin. Get mad and cut it off while I'm halfway through the sentence. And he said this and he said that. Yeah, way before Kathleen Wynne came out and said she was gay, about a week, I called her a child molester. The next week, actually, I'm gay and I'm married and I adopt kids. Hey, you just confirmed everything I said about you. So if you want to keep fucking cutting these videos out, go for it. You want to delete hours on into video, go for it. I'll just keep repeating the same shit, stupid.
In the right direction, unless
Even when you think nobody watches, somebody watches.
Story. I'm your host, Jordan Heathrow.
Every action you take to delete shit is also logged. You got your own
Podcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts.
Remember, if you got unfettered access, so does somebody else. Remember, Twitter came out and said they can see all your private messages and everything. They can just see it all. Like there's no logging into security or anything. It's all wide open and there. But they need everybody's cell phone number for two step authentication or some shit. Yeah, that's useful. If I steal your phone, I can log into your account. That's useful. You're logging into the account on the same phone where the message comes. It's fucking useless. You're sending the code over the SMS system, which is not encrypted or anything.
Our vehicles come with Toyota Safety Sense. It's a suite of intelligent safety features that other car companies charge
all these fucking weird glitches. Just stop. He said child molester and lesbian. Yes, technically I said
it's time to Toyota. Lease the 2020 Corolla LE was low as $60 weekly at 1.6%.
Funny because it's fucking true. In fact, it's not that funny. It's just true.
Ask your local Ontario Toyota dealer about contactless shopping.
Say it with empathy.
RRSP season is here. Consider Israel Bonds for your RRSP and tax-free savings account. Israel Bonds are now paying up to 3.14% in Canadian dollars, subject to
I got a better way to cut
Israel
it.
Bonds are sold in Canada by Canada Israel Securities Limited. Diversify your RRSP and TFSA with Israel Bonds. Rates up to 3.14% are available until January 31st. Call Israel Bonds today at 416-789-3351 or visit israelbonds.ca.
680 News Time, 2:26. Time now for the 680 News Business Report. Let's check into the Business Center with Chris McCusker. Chris, keeping an eye on our Looney this afternoon. And our Looney's not doing too well by the looks of it.
No, but, some perspective here. Earlier this week, it got close to a 3-year high. Right now, it's down by about 0.6 cents, 78.55 cents U.S. Bank of Canada is
down on the day or down since the last time you reported? Because you're bad at that too.
At the Bank of Montreal.
The Bank of Canada has given some indications that they're not really comfortable with the
central banks don't set interest rates. They set their target rate. Means nothing.
The Canadian dollar really depends on where commodity prices
are. Don't tell Visa that the central bank lowered its interest rate. They're going to say, so what? You don't borrow money.
But I think it's pretty safe to say that the rapid rise we saw in the currency late last year and early this year was probably a little bit too fast for the Bank of Canada's comfort.
Now, the TSX is lower for a second day. It's down 69 points, 17,847. Finishing likely in the red this week by about 0.5%. The price for oil right now down 90 cents, 52.23. And then gold is lower by $10, 18.59. StatsCan says retail sales for November increased by 1.3%, a gain for a 7th straight month, although we could see declines for December. Now, on Wall Street, markets there in the red right now, but likely to finish the week higher. The Dow is down 110, the S&P up by 8, and the NASDAQ down by 0.5 point. Shares in Amazon right now looking at a slight pullback, down by 0.4%, 3,292.94. A judge in Seattle is rejecting Carter's demand.
Hey, who are you going to sell that to? Why haven't they done a stock split?
For the social media platform. Amazon, you'll remember, cut it off after the violence in Washington 2 weeks ago. In her ruling, the judge said that Parler was unlikely to prove Amazon breached its contract or violated antitrust law by suspending service.
The judge said, you're right, but it's not that important.
Call. We have also been watching shares in TC Energy. This is the owner of the Keystone XL pipeline. That stock right now down by 1.5%, 56.
We're gonna fuck you up, man.
Yesterday, the company was laying off about 1,000 people with construction on the project halted. The new U.S. president.
They only hired all those people to make a big show of how many jobs it will create. Right.
Scheduled to speak to our Prime Minister.
And it's just like this. The jokes about you see guys doing construction on the highway. The difference is those guys are working, but they got to take turns doing whatever job.
Likely to be changed.
These idiots, there's 2 dozen standing there, and 1 guy in the pipe welding. There's nothing. There's no job once the pipeline's put in.
But your heart says, invest in that new sound system right now. With Advice Plus.
My plumbing was installed in 1975, probably, because the building was started in 74. I live in the bottom third. It completed in 76. So my plumbing's probably from about 75. That makes it 45 years old. In 45 years, do you know how many times they've called the original installer to do anything with this plumbing? 0. There was never a 45-year job with this plumbing. Hey, what am I getting at? Pipes eliminate manual handling of materials. That's the whole fucking purpose of a pipe job.
As we enjoy his company, a leader.
So we'll go from 300,000 barrels of oil subsidized.
Who's your
I got to do some exchange rates. 52 US to 38 Canadian or something.
So we all arrive alive.
Meteorologist Jill Taylor's forecast for this afternoon. We are looking at those cloudy conditions. We've already reached our guaranteed high of +2 this afternoon. Temperatures, though, going to continue to fall throughout the day today to around
3 barrels of our oil is worth 2 of theirs.
Cloudy skies, a low down to -10, a wind chill of -18.
We're selling them 3 barrels of oil for what we're getting 2 barrels of oil for. There's a 50% subsidy. See, on the half hour, like fucking clockwork. There you are. We waited for the damn beep on the radio to do it. Keep it up, Mr. Pedophile. Keep it up. Pedophile hackers all the way. Keep it up. Prove how good you are in the rat trap. This is a Toronto Police Ice Squad rat trap. I'm going to repeat myself over and over because YouTube keeps erasing the videos where I say this. The Toronto Police Ice Squad can go through my IP address or whatever and find all these assholes trying to hack it. Every single one of them's a child pornographer. Every single one of them. Nobody else has a reason to try to hack this. Live stream. What's there to hack? You can see me. You know I'm here. If you wanted to shoot me through the door, guess what? You can watch on your phone and shoot through the door and know for sure you did it.
Taking a vacation abroad right now.
So, who does that leave trying to hack my system? Who do we keep killing out here? Every which way possible. One between life and death.
The Prime Minister confirms Pfizer deliveries won't ramp up again until mid-February. The Prime Minister has briefed the Queen and is looking at strengthening the vetting process for Governors General after Julie Payette resigns amid a cloud of workplace harassment allegations.
Austin Matthews will not play tonight when the Leafs and Oilers face off at 7. An icon in baseball has died, and will Siakam and Lowry take the floor this evening? Sports at 45.
Stock slipped, Dow drops more than 100, plus lots of green in the avocado business. We'll let you know why it's gearing up for a big Super Bowl, even with the pandemic. Business at 50 cents.
By the way, you lost the animal, right? Why the fuck are you eating avocado? Shut up!
This report is brought
We're
to you
from the
by
great country of Texas, and you're going to be
We have a
buried.
series of problems westbound on the 401 near
Steal
Yonge
your
Deer
horses.
Avenue. Now, at the moment, everything has cleared.
Your
So
horses.
let's try to
Hold
keep
on,
it that
little
way
wild
because
women.
most of these crashes happen in the backups that were there.
We've got horses here for 30,000
Even when you're in
years.
stop-and-go traffic,
Cannabis
you
seeds for
have to be paying
33,000.
attention to the task at hand. Westbound on the 401, it is heavy from the
Africans in North
404,
here
the
since
Express,
at
and
least
from Bayview and
900
the
AD.
Collectors to Avenue Road. But again, all problems have
Our
cleared
written
in
language
this
is
area.
identical to
Even
Egyptian
if you're on
hieroglyphics.
the southbound DVP, the ramp to Baby Bloor, that's partially blocked because of a stalled vehicle. So be careful. There's not much of a delay. Northbound DVP is starting to get busy as you head past Lawrence. Looks okay, at least in terms of delays on the northbound 404, but you're going to run into some flurries in many areas of the GTA right now along the 404. Anywhere north of Steeles and as well the 400 in that area. It's even
Wouldn't
even
that
seeing
been
these
when,
flurries
the
as well
Roman
around the
times?
401 and Avenue Road where we have those problems. Eastbound on the 401, busy from Kipling
Remember,
to the
the Egyptians
400,
had
that's
copper
mainly in the
plumbing at
Express,
that point.
and a delay
Like
northbound
thousands of years
427
before
from the
that.
407 onto the
2,000 years
Highway
before the
7
Romans
ramp.
killed
On
themselves with
city
lead.
streets, we have a few problems. Young Street is closed from Wellesley to Gloucester. That's for a collision investigation. We also have a collision northbound on Don Mill.
fast can you possibly go on that
two
street,
right
man?
lanes, but just a minor delay there. And I just had a call
That
from a
might as well
traffic
be a
spotter
tunnel.
northbound
There's
on
no
Markham
room
Road
to drive
approaching
down the
Finch.
street.
The left lane is blocked because of a stalled transport truck. The Mercedes-Benz Durham Sprinter
Why did that
event.
reply
Get
on
lease and
Sprint
finance
to
rates as low as
job box? I think we
2.99%
just
and
fly
special
off and nothing
savings
bad
on
would happen
remaining
to it.
2020 Sprinter vans. Details at mercedes-benzDurham.com.
Mercedes.
And now with the forecast, here's Jill
Lord,
Taylor.
won't
Snow
you buy
spots
us
to the
a
north and northwest,
Mercedes
and flurries
van?
could be at times heavy, even in parts of the
Was it on
GTA.
white?
We've already reached our
Uh,
guaranteed high +2.
There's 3
Falling
rednecks
temperatures
that
is going
do
to get a
jokes
lot
together. I
colder.
think it's wrong,
Sit
right?
at about -4 this afternoon, -10 for the low. It'll feel like -18 overnight.
It doesn't matter.
For
He
today,
makes a
already
joke
reached
about
our
Mercedes
guaranteed
not
high
making a
+2.
van. That joke is from before they started making vans.
International mail and parcels could take longer to deliver as dozens of workers at a postal plant in Mississauga
There's no border
tested positive for
services
COVID-19.
and no Canada Post employees there.
The Canada Post facility on Dixie with the latest
And literally tons of U.S.
That's right, James.
source
If
here,
you're expecting
international
mail or
mail.
package from the U.S. or Europe anytime, or basically coming from anywhere outside Canada, you could be
Wow,
waiting a
you
while.
were about to do a
Because of
list of 200
COVID-19,
countries,
last
bro.
evening,
You're
about
smart.
100 Canada Border Services Agency staff were pulled out of work here at the massive
Canada
Gateway,
Border
processing
Services
plant for the
agents.
Canada Post. and inspections of every piece of incoming international mail is on hold until they all come back. National President of the Customs and Immigration Union, Jean-Pierre Fortin, could not say exactly how much mail we're talking about here, but
it's bundles of mail. It's like a huge cages on trailers. You're talking about, containers and containers of packages. The impact will be immediate on the time delivery of those packages of mail.
No, but Steve Jobs said. What happened to Steve Jobs?
Says the Canada Border Services Agency had been told by Canada Post there were only 20 such workers, 6 times fewer. Fortin has no idea how long it'll take to resolve the dispute, but he says these customs inspectors cannot simply be replaced by other workers. It's like screening people at airports. It has to be customs officers. Canada Post already testing an entire shift of workers for COVID, and that's expected to slow down regular domestic mail. But now they've been asked about this problem with the customs and the international mail. No response to my questions so far. Reporting live outside the Gateway plant, I'm Mark Douglas.
You're asking dumb questions and your friends
Not
think
only
they're
does
stupid.
it spread more quickly, but British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told his nation that the new variant of COVID-19 is also deadlier than the original version of the virus. Hospitalizations in the UK are more than 78% higher than during the first wave. 680's Phil Martino joins us live now with the latest on the variant that initially wasn't supposed to be cause for concern. Phil.
That's not what they said.
British PM Boris Johnson
It
announced
was originally not supposed to be caused for concern. Who told you that?
Spread more quickly.
It also now appears that there is some evidence that the new variant, the variant that was first identified in London and the southeast, may be associated with a higher degree of mortality.
Johnson also says both the vaccines they're currently using remain effective both against the old variant and this new one. Here at home, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is telling Canadians to take the advice of health officials and stay home.
No one should be taking a vacation abroad right now. If you've got one planned, cancel it.
And Trudeau says don't book a trip for spring break. He's also urging people not to travel anywhere else in the country.
He just said that.
COVID-19 case numbers can
He also said the exact same thing in my words. No, he didn't.
But it says on this radio, the downward trend of new cases in Ontario continues, but there's ongoing concerns on the vaccine front. 680's Alex Bloomfield's here with the latest on the
Remember, they haven't counted any of these Canada Post employees in their numbers.
662 new infections, over 71,000 tests. That pushes the positivity rate down to 3.3%. In Ontario's active caseload dropping by 700 cases.
Entire
However,
shift.
87
Remember that.
people dying with COVID.
The other 2 shifts
Third highest single-day
are going to be touching the same mail.
Vaccine rationing now underway. 80% of the 11,000 shots Thursday in
You know what
Ontario
they
were
don't
second
have in those
doses.
sorting facilities?
Prime
Anything
Minister
wet.
announcing he was
Nothing
unable
wet.
to alter Pfizer's short-term delivery schedule in a phone call with the drug maker.
The next few weeks will be challenging when it comes to deliveries.
Justin Trudeau says those deliveries will ramp up again by February 15th.
You ever try to get a
Canada
washing
will get
machine down a
4 million
basement,
doses by the end of March,
smash
along
up
with
the walls?
500,000 from Moderna. And Public Safety Minister Bill Blair says help is on the way for stressed GTA hospitals in the form of 2 mobile health units.
These units will be staffed by the province and have facility for up to 100 beds in each.
The number of COVID patients in Ontario hospitals has now declined for 4 straight days. Reporting live, I'm Alex Bloomfield.
This is
We're
680
still at
Prime Minister
2,600
speaking out
instead
for
of
the first time
80.
since the resignation of Governor General Julie Payette, who stepped down following a series of allegations of workplace harassment.
In the wake of this unprecedented resignation, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has briefed the Queen and informed her that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will be taking over the Governor General duties for the interim. But questions are being raised about the Prime Minister's judgment, and he wouldn't say if the government was aware that Julie Payette faced similar allegations in her previous 2 jobs. He also didn't apologize to workers at Rideau Hall, rather thanking them for their work in a difficult situation.
And reassure them that we will continue to stand up for workplaces that are safe and secure.
Trudeau is considering strengthening the vetting process for governors general, and he's open to changing annuities, which is basically a hefty pension, which Payette will be entitled to.
Obviously, we're always open to having discussions on changes that need to be made moving forward.
The Prime Minister didn't say when he would recommend a replacement for Payette. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
A winter weather travel advisory remains in effect for some areas north of the city, including Caledon, Newmarket, and Uxbridge. Mara McKenna says drivers should watch out for blowing snow that will make getting around difficult. Local snowfall amounts up to 10 centimeters possible by tomorrow morning.
Gas prices are next.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's something you hear a lot this time of year. Making space in your life is what it
No, it's not. I've never heard that except you saying it.
To do in the future with this.
You've been running that commercial for a while.
Who knows? But there was a big, I'm sure, a big reason where they felt they got a steal for that price.
I think I've got a loophole here. You just mentioned that they received probably some government grants, some startup money. That means you and I, the Canadian taxpayer, get the lawyers on the phone. I think maybe, just maybe, we could be in for part of the $700 million plus.
No, that's not how it works. The money is created with the budget
I would
process.
love to be able to capitalize in some capacity, but
Whatever they can't get that way, they take from the Indian Capital Trust accounts. It don't come from taxes. Stop it. I'm a taxpayer, so it means nothing in Canada. Means nothing in Canada.
What does this sale mean for this company moving forward, Adam?
Well, first off, I think it involves the fact that a Canadian developed a software, and Canadians have great ideas, honestly, Jeff. I think we're undervalued when it comes to when we hear about softwares that exist in the market. We only hear about the Twitters and the TikToks and, you know, those social platforms, but Canada has developed a lot of amazing software systems, and the sad element of that is that we get either acquired or we're forced into some sort of closure situation. I mean, we take a look at CorelDRAW. I mean, one of the best developed systems that would be going up against Office back in the day. I mean, no longer has the merit that it used to. BlackBerry sustains itself as a phenomenal company, and thank goodness they got
software developer, but they don't make hardware anymore. Northern Telecom, Aero, there's a sports car. I keep forgetting the name of that we made in New Brunswick.
I mean, I created a few softwares of my own, and I think there's a little
softwares of my
understanding that Canadians are extremely advanced when it comes to creating some amazing software that exists out there today. Artificial intelligence, robotics, a few companies I believe out there, 1Password is one of those secret management that actually is a software that's Canadian, holds your password, and we think we talked about how many times you get hacked. My concern is that there's not a lot, like we're talking probably less than 500 still owned Canadian software companies, and they're probably all going to be acquired at some point by some foreign bigger juggernaut.
You know, I realize the internet, we don't care what such a big error as a kid falling in love with the microphone instead of the keyboard. What was I thinking?
By the way, what about publicly traded companies? They're owned by people all over the world.
Thank you as always. Have a
Foreign
great safe
governments
weekend.
and all sorts of people.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
You bet. You as well. That's our tech expert, Adam Oldfield, as we head back into the rounds.
Donald
with
Trump
a check of the
banned
Friday
you
drive.
from owning Chinese
Well,
companies.
radio,
He didn't ban
6:20
Chinese
traffic.
companies from owning American
Really
companies.
good news. Problems on the 401 westbound. Collectors of Bayview all cleaned up. And the problems on the 401
Damn it, do we
westbound.
have anything useful today?
Finch, the left lane is blocked because of a stalled transport truck, so a minor delay as you approach that problem. Now at Pizza Pizza, try the new superfood pizza crust. It's vegan, gluten-free, and made with antioxidant-rich vegetables like purple sweet potato. Now at Pizza Pizza.
All imported from the United States for some
Flurries
reason.
at times heavy,
They got
otherwise
truckloads of
cloudy,
canned
some sunny
tomatoes
rains,
passing
winter
on
weather
greenhouses
travel
going up
advisory
here.
for the North GTA, where the heaviest snow will be with the snow squalls. Already reached our guaranteed high +2, dropped to -4 this afternoon, -10 for the
Where
low.
Agent
Will feel
Orange
like
is,
-18
illegal.
overnight. Bit of sunshine for the weekend, mainly
I
Saturday,
don't know
but
what you
highs near
call it,
-5.
herbicide.
For today, already reached our guaranteed high +2.
Overcast in downtown Toronto, -3, feels like -9.
While the U.S. government
Now
is
the
spending
dynamic
millions of
times,
dollars to
minutes
clean
for
up
business center.
Vietnam,
Here's Richard
they
Sutton.
approved
Hey, so
Agent
Janet,
Orange
happy
as a
Friday to you.
defoliant
Stocks a little bit
in the
weak
United
here in
States.
the Friday afternoon trade. The
No
TSX
mention of that.
is lower by 66
Hey, how come
points.
Canada
Giving
allows
up about
MMT to be an additive in
17,850.
gasoline, and
On
the
Wall
U.S.
Street, the Dow
doesn't?
right now down
It's only been
126 points to
23
31,050.
years I've been listening to that story.
Record
I
down
had
6. The Nasdaq,
wondering.
though, remains in record
Why?
high
I've never
territory.
heard an
It's up
explanation as
6
to why.
points.
Why are we
Shares in
still dumping
IBM
grain in
down
the St. Lawrence and
10%
pouring milk
following
down
an
the drain?
earnings miss from the company last night. Intel also lower by 8% on the heels
So
of its
increase the
earnings.
prices for stability for farmers. That's good. If the farmers don't make money,
And the
you give
Canadian
them
dollar
money. So
down
what the fuck are
half
you
a cent
talking
today at 78.54 cents US. James and Slajana have your headlines next on 680
Notice
News.
smoking and
When it comes to investing,
no,
it's time to consider the alternatives. Dynamic
no
funds sees
serious Canadian
diversification
politician.
differently. Ask a financial advisor how and learn more.
no serious Canadian politician ever says the taxpayers, because that's not where the money comes from. They tax you because they can, because you keep paying it. That's it. There's no other reason. The money comes from the budget process. We print it. Oh, like the U.S. No, the U.S. has 12 privately owned banks that are named federal. It's like Federal Express. It means nothing. Our money's as good as the word of the Queen, supposedly.
Line for details.
I'm Erica Alini.
My tune and the coastline.
Todavía yo te quiero, pero sé que es un error, porque ya tú no me quieres, y sin ti me va mejor.
Pretty. How the fuck did you manage to do that to me? How the fuck? Hey, Phillips really failed on this one.
On feeling.
Fuck.
Your Engvall makes his season debut.
Bill Engvall? That's the other guy. That's not what he just said, but that's the other guy.
Hank Aaron, the longtime home run champ, died.
Good.
Like the Ram Winter doesn't stand a chance event.
With big discounts on Ram trucks.
So that's a no? Okay. How about the Ram Old Man Winter Better Run and Hide event?
Get 25% off MSRP on the 2020 Ram 1500 Classic.
Also no. Okay.
For up to $14,600 in total discounts.
Well, discounts that big, it doesn't matter what you call it.
See your Ram dealer for details.
Things are changing at Tim Hortons.
Did you hear we have a new dark on street?
It's rich. I know you have converted me.
$5.90.
So there's less caffeine in it, just like the cigarettes with less nicotine. Right, that's what I want. A weaker dose for me to try to get my fix. It makes a lot of sense. So you have to put more coffee in the fucking machine to make it. Then you got to put more sugar and cream. It tastes disgusting.
Sales event at Nissan.
And here comes the radiant.
Dark roast is as bad as half cab.
The JD Power Award for Best in Driver Appeal among compact cars in the U.S.
How could it not win with its radical redesign? Sentra is such a crowd pleaser.
And intelligent emergency braking?
It's a showstopper.
Totally.
You too can drive home a winner. Leave the Sentra SV from the equivalent of just $55 weekly. Visit Nissan.ca or contact your Nissan dealer.
$240 monthly at 1.5% for 39 months with $995 down. Conditions apply.
This is 6 City News. It would appear the stay-at-home order is being followed as much as possible here in the city. 6 City's Melvin Crenshaw joins us with the data that shows traffic is definitely lighter these days.
Since the second
So we got
lockdown went into
50,000
effect after
speeding
Christmas,
tickets,
Eric Holmes with the city tells me the number of vehicles on the roads has dropped to 63% of pre-pandemic levels.
We've really seen numbers come back down, so we're almost at that pre-flow level again. We're not quite as low as where we were last March, but the numbers are trending downward, which is good. It shows us that everybody's staying home and following public health orders.
Holmes says since the stay-at-home order started and schools have gone into virtual learning, morning rush hour in particular has faded away.
Morning rush hour really doesn't exist in the same way that it did before. It's been spread out. There's been fewer cars in general.
This is the lowest amount of vehicle traffic we've seen on the roads since the first lockdown last spring. I'm Omen Qureshi.
This is 6 City News. Comedian David Chappelle has tested positive for COVID-19.
David Chappelle has tested positive for COVID-19 one day after performing a live show Wednesday. Reps for Chappelle say the 47-year-old comedian has also canceled his
So if you're in the first 2 rows and you got maybe a little bit of spit done on you by accident, you might want to get checked.
Was set to appear too, part of the socially distanced comedy shows that he had been doing since the summer. Now, according to a statement, Chappelle is quarantining and not experiencing any symptoms. Chappelle and his crew would also be tested before every performance and offered rapid testing to all audience members before every show. Matt Wolf, ABC News.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the decision by U.S. President Joe Biden to cancel the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline was very difficult news for workers in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The two are scheduled to speak over the phone later this afternoon.
It's not always going to be a perfect alignment with the United States.
You guys got Alberta and Saskatchewan. You guys are dumb.
But in a situation where we are much more aligned on values, on focus, on the work that needs to be done to give opportunities for everyone while we build a better future, I'm very.
So we go GAPL, Keystone XL. And the Chinese never played along with this natural gas thing on the Wet'suwet'en land. That's why I'm not stopping it. That's why for the last 12 months I haven't bothered trying to stop the trains. That's why.
Your heart wants to enjoy life now. The Scotia Aria Retirement Program can help. No matter where you're starting from, we can create a unique path to help reach your vision of retirement. And as you grow, this flexible plan can grow with you, so you can enjoy what's important to you today as you get closer to your retirement goals tomorrow. Get started at scotiabank.com/aria and learn more about the Scotia Aria Retirement Program. When we work together, amazing things can happen. The Love You by Shoppers Drug Mart program works together with local charities to help advance women's health and provide support systems for women to feel their best. To date, we've raised over $74 million to support women's health initiatives in our communities. Join us in being a champion for women's health. Visit shoppersdrugmart.ca/loveyou to learn how you can participate. Because together, we're empowered. Together, we're healthier. Together, we're unstoppable.
News time 251.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prunskis. This report is brought to you by Diamond and Diamond Lawyers. I'm looking at the 400 and testing camera right now.
These are the idiots that pretend to be the police and call you. So you can't threaten these people. You can't email these people. I will tell anybody I've contracted to do a service that they're fired, and I feel like. And you pretending to be the police is a fucking joke, Mr. Diamond.
10 into Orangeville, he was reporting whiteout conditions. So keep that in mind if that's part of your travels. As for delays, westbound on the 401, it's busy from the 404 to Leslie in the Express, a slow go from Bayview to Yonge in the Collectors, and busy eastbound 401 as you approach Kipling to the 400 in the Express. A minor delay as you head past Weston and the Collectors. Southbound on the DVP, the ramp to Bayview Bloor, that's partially blocked because of a stalled truck. So a heavy backup taking that ramp southbound DVP onto Bayview Bloor. Northbound Don Valley Parkway, that's busy approaching Eglinton to north of Lawrence. And the slow go northbound 427 from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. On city streets, traffic spotters tell me at Belfield and Iron, that's Belfield east of Highway 27, the traffic lights are out at that intersection, so be very careful. Make sure that you're treating it as an all-way stop. And last we heard from Toronto Transportation, still had Yonge Street closed in both directions between Wellesley and Gloucester, all due to a collision investigation. Last we heard from a traffic spotter, northbound on Markham Road approaching Finch, still had the left lane closed there, that due to a stalled transport truck. You paid for your disability benefits, and now the insurance company says no. Call Diamond and Diamond and get the compensation you deserve. Call 1-800-567-HURT for your free consultation. And now with the extended forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Flurries could be at times heavy, especially for the northern GTA today, tonight, and early Saturday morning. Otherwise, mainly cloudy, some peaks of sunshine and colder air working in. We've already reached our guaranteed high +2. Falling temperatures today to -4. It'll feel colder with that gusty wind out of the west-northwest. -10 for the low. Feel like -18 overnight. For the weekend, morning flurries Saturday, sun and cloud, cold high -5, cloudy on Sunday -4. For today, already reached our guaranteed high +2.
Overcast in downtown Toronto, -3, feels like -9.
This extended forecast is brought to you by Queen's Smith MBA in Toronto. Earn your MBA from Queen's Smith School of Business right here in Toronto. Find out more at smithmbaintoronto.com. International mail and parcels could take longer to arrive after a major outbreak of COVID at a Canada Post sorting facility in Mississauga. We'll have the details coming up at 3.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting year. And if you're like me, maybe you've been drinking more than usual and you want to take a break. Well, with DryFeb it's easy, and you'll be supporting the Canadian Cancer Society. When you sign up at dryfeb.ca, you'll help fund groundbreaking research and support services for people affected by cancer. And you can reduce your own risk of cancer. Try shopping for a week or the whole month. Go as dry as you're willing to try it in February. Sign up at dryfeb.ca. It's easier than you think.
Be the first to know
The moment it happens.
with 680 News breaking news alerts.
Powered by the Monitoring Center Home Security.
Now partnered with Tag Dispatch.
Subscribe now.
At 680news.com.
Toronto police are investigating the city's third homicide of the year. Around 9:45 last night, emergency crews were called to the Murray Ross Parkway and Sentinel Road area near York University. A woman was found inside an apartment and pronounced dead at the scene. There's no word yet on any suspects. Business is next. When Mark Mendelson and Bay Blue Radio joined forces with 680 News over 25 years ago, it was the start of a beautiful relationship.
We've been advertising on 680 News since the very beginning. Radio is the best vehicle for advertising long-term to a client base who will buy when they're ready to buy. And we're a long-term business, so we love long-term results.
Vendors love those results too.
Whenever we talk to a vendor about co-op advertising, they say, oh, please advertise on 680 News. And that's because the CEOs of these companies I'm dealing with are listening to this radio station all the time, and all their friends are. And the reason 680 works is because it's foreground radio. When people are actually listening to 680 News, they're actually listening.
And what you say to those listeners has shaped how they see the Bay Blue Radio brand.
Radio gives you your personality, and you can personalize your company, which we've managed to do over a long period of time on 680 News.
It sounds like it's working.
Well, we're still here after 73 years.
Get 680 News working for you. Visit 680ads.com.
680 News Time, 2:56.
Now the 680 News Business Report. Here's Richard Southern.
Hey, thanks, Flajanna. They have been one of the hottest items at the grocery store for a while, and they're expected to get even more popular. We're talking about avocados. Yeah, hot sellers in the produce section, despite their high price. Avocado's biggest day of the year is fast approaching, the Super Bowl. Demand for the fruit always jumps for the big game as fans dig in to bowls of guacamole. And despite the pandemic this year, the Mexican Association of Avocado Producers...
So remember, every marked up dollar you spend on avocados going to a country that is sinking money into this fucking pandemic and not doing anything about it.
Even though Super Bowl holiday should be...
You have to get out and hug each other.
It's with the Dalhousie University.
What's really interesting about avocados is that they've been able to become popular for the 3-meal institution. People will eat avocados for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That pays. That makes a commodity very, very popular. Unlike celery, celery actually was the opposite. In 2019, there was this celery juice phenomenon. Everyone wanted to drink celery juice, but in 2020, sales.
And then they found out for every 4 calories you get from the celery, you burn 6 calories.
It's going to be the same for avocados, but for
whatever the numbers are,
at this particular point in time, we don't see any changes when it comes to how fashionable avocados are.
And no shade of avocado green on financial markets, I'm afraid. Stocks moving lower here in the late afternoon trade on a Friday. The TSX is down 64 points to 17,851. The commodity trade not so hot right now, with gold down more than $9 to 1,856 US dollars the ounce. The big board lower off the New York Stock Exchange. The Dow drops 117 points to 31,058. With the IBM stock down almost 10%, $118. Big Blue in with earnings last night. A pretty sizable miss on its top line revenue, and as a result, IBM moving lower. In the Dow Jones Industrial Average today. S&P 500 is down 3 points. We are looking at continued strength, though, for the tech-heavy NASDAQ, up 20 points in record-high territory. We got the Canadian dollar moving lower. It's been a bit weak for the loonie as it hit its highest level in, 2 or 3 years. But the loonie's down 0.5% right now. It's 78 0.54 cents US. Top stories are seconds away. Keep it here on 680 News.
Scott McGilvery here. I've done hundreds of home renovations over the years, and I'm particularly careful about what I put under the floors. On my projects, I use TMX 2.0. This easy-to-install underlayment has an air gap design that allows moisture to evaporate, and it doesn't require wood subfloors, which can be a food source for mold growth. DMX One Step can be used under most vinyl or laminate.
Rice, wheat, soybeans, and hog futures are commodities. Gold is a precious metal. The gold sector is a part of the capital markets. I should tell them that. I wasn't going to. I hate giving them good advice. Seven 26800.
Thank you for calling the 650 News. Please leave your comment that may be used on air now.
Soybeans and wheat and hog futures are commodities. The gold sector is the capital market, but gold is a precious metal. You guys are really fucking stupid, huh? Like the fact you keep repeating this stuff, and it's like we're gonna believe it. You're fucking retarded. You should take the business course you never took before you got this job, eh?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love giving good advice to shitty people as much as I love giving shitty advice to good